The phone rang at 3:47 a.m. Dubai time. I knew it was her before I even looked at the screen. Jennifer always had this timing thing, like she could sense when I'd finally managed to fall asleep in whatever hotel room I'd landed in. 15 years of marriage teaches you patterns. This time, though, something felt different. The ringtone itself seemed sharper, more insistent. I was lying in the Marriott on Sheikh Zayed Road, watching the city lights paint geometric patterns across the ceiling. The contract negotiations had wrapped early, surprisingly early, actually. The Emirati logistics firm had agreed to our terms without the usual back and forth. I should have been celebrating. Instead, I was staring at my wife's name on the screen, feeling that old, familiar weight in my chest. "Hello," I said. "David." Her voice was clear. Too clear for someone calling in the middle of the night. No grogginess, no concern. Just my name, stated like a fact. "We need to talk." I sat up, swung my legs over the edge of the bed. The marble floor was cool under my feet. "It's almost 4 a.m. here. I know what time it is." A pause. "I'm leaving you." The words hung in the air like smoke. I could hear traffic in the background on her end. She wasn't home. She was somewhere public, somewhere with witnesses, maybe. I felt my pulse in my temples, but my voice stayed level. "Okay," I said. That threw her. I could hear it in the silence that followed. She'd expected something, anger, pleading, shock. I gave her nothing. "Did you hear what I said?" Her tone sharpened. "I'm leaving you for someone else." "I heard you. His name is Trevor Halston. He's been my partner for 8 months now." She was rushing now, words tumbling out like she'd rehearsed them. "He makes me feel alive again. He sees me, David. Really sees me. You've been checked out for years." I walked to the window. 43 floors below, Dubai was still awake. Endless streams of headlights flowing through the city like blood through veins. "Is that everything?" "Everything?" She laughed, sharp and brittle. "I'm pregnant, David, with his child. We're building a life together, a real one, and I've already started making arrangements." My hand tightened on the phone. "What arrangements?" "I sold the house. And your car. I had power of attorney, remember? You signed it when you started traveling so much. Gave me full control to handle things while you were gone." Her voice had taken on this edge of triumph now, like she was reading from a script she'd been dying to perform. "The money's already transferred. We're buying a place together, Trevor and me. Somewhere new. Somewhere that's actually ours." The thing about shock, real shock, not the movie kind, is how quiet it is. No dramatic music, no slow motion, just this expanding numbness that starts in your chest and spreads outward until you're not sure if you're still breathing. "The house," I said slowly. "On Riverside Drive, the one we bought together. Bought with my money, technically. My promotion paid for most of it, if you remember. And yes, that house. Sold it 3 days ago, closed yesterday afternoon." She was enjoying this now. I could hear it. "The car, too. That ridiculous truck you insisted on buying. Got a fair price for it, considering." I looked at my reflection in the window glass. Same face I'd shaved that morning. Same guy who'd spent the day negotiating freight routes and warehouse specifications. But something had shifted in my chest. Not anger exactly, more like a door closing somewhere deep inside. "David, are you still there?" "I'm here." "I expected you to—" She stopped. "Why aren't you yelling? Why aren't you freaking out?" I turned away from the window, found my laptop on the desk. The screen cast a blue glow across the hotel room. "What would you like me to say, Jennifer?" "I don't know. Something. Anything. This is our marriage I'm talking about. Our life. You sold our house while I was overseas. You're pregnant with another man's child. You want me to react?" I opened my laptop, fingers moving across the keys. "All right." "All right what?" "All right. I accept it." Another pause, longer this time. When she spoke again, the triumph had faded into something else. Confusion, maybe frustration. "That's it? You just accept it? What else is there?" I was pulling up documents now, cross-referencing dates. Something she'd said wasn't tracking right. The power of attorney had specific limitations. I'd made sure of that when our lawyer Drew Bennett drew it up. "You've made your choice. I'm not going to beg." "God, you're so cold. Trevor said you would be. He said you'd probably just shut down like you always do." "Trevor sounds perceptive." "He is. He's everything you're not, David. He's present. He's passionate. He actually wants to build something real." I saved the document I was looking at, closed the laptop. "When's your due date?" The question caught her off guard. "What?" "The baby. When are you due?" December. Early December. Her voice had gone uncertain now, like she couldn't figure out which way this conversation was heading. Why? Just curious. I checked my watch, still running on Eastern Time. Back home, it was 8:47 p.m. Is Trevor there with you now? He's waiting in the car. We're at the airport, actually, flying to his sister's place in California for a few days. I wanted to call you before we left to let you know. That was thoughtful. Stop it. Stop what? Being so damn calm about everything. It's creepy. You should be losing it right now. I almost smiled. Almost. Would that make you feel better? It would make you feel human. I thought about that, about what it meant to feel human, to react the way people expect you to react. Jennifer had always been good at expectations. She'd expected me to take the operations manager job at Translogic, expected me to work the long hours, expected me to travel when they needed someone overseas, and I had. For 15 years, I'd met every expectation she'd set. I'll be back in 3 days, I told her. We can sort out the details then. There's nothing to sort out. It's done, David. I'm done. The house paperwork, the financials, divorce attorney recommendations, those kinds of details. She went quiet again. I could hear Trevor's voice in the background, muffled but impatient. She covered the phone, said something back to him I couldn't make out. Fine, she said finally. 3 days, but I'm not changing my mind about any of this. I wouldn't expect you to. And David, don't try to contest anything. You'll just make this harder on yourself. My lawyer says it's all completely legal. I'm sure he does. Goodbye, David. She ended the call before I could respond. I stood there for a moment, phone still pressed to my ear, listening to the empty silence. Then I set it down on the desk and pulled up my laptop again. The power of attorney document was exactly where I'd saved it 2 years ago. I scrolled through the pages, reading carefully. Jennifer had authority to handle household finances, yes. Manage accounts, pay bills, make routine decisions. But selling property? That required my signature. Physical signature, notarized, with my explicit consent for each specific transaction. I opened a new browser window and logged into our joint bank account. The balance made my stomach drop. She'd cleaned it out. Every penny we'd accumulated, gone. But the house sale proceeds? Not there either. I checked my email, scanning through the last week of messages. Nothing from our title company. Nothing from our real estate attorney. I picked up my phone and dialed Drew Bennett's number. It rang 4 times before his voicemail picked up. Too late for business calls, too early for emergencies. I left a brief message asking him to call me first thing in the morning, then hung up. The city lights below seemed to pulse in rhythm with my heartbeat now. I thought about Jennifer at the airport with Trevor Halston, whoever he was. Thought about them boarding a plane to California, probably laughing about how easily they'd pulled this off. How stupid old David had been, signing away his rights without reading the fine print. Except I had read the fine print. I always read the fine print. I opened my contacts and found another number. Richard Kim, my old friend from college who'd gone into private investigation work after his stint in Army intelligence. We'd kept in touch over the years, mostly grabbing beers when I was back east, talking about nothing in particular. This time, we'd be talking about something very particular. The phone rang once before he picked up. Davy, it's late for you to be calling. What's wrong? I need a favor, I said. A big one. The morning sun turned Dubai into a furnace of glass and chrome. I'd slept maybe 40 minutes total, my mind running through scenarios like a hamster on a wheel. At 7 a.m., I was already dressed and down in the hotel restaurant, nursing black coffee and watching CNN with the sound off. My phone buzzed. Drew Bennett. David, got your message. What's going on? I took the call outside into the blast furnace heat of the hotel entrance. Jennifer says she sold our house. I claim she used the power of attorney we set up. Silence on the other end. Then, she can't do that. That's what I thought. The POA specifically limits her to routine household management. Property sales require your explicit written consent for each transaction. I made sure of that when we drafted it. You remember? We talked about protecting you in case anything happened while you were traveling. I watched a Bentley pull up to the valet stand. A man in traditional white robes emerged, followed by 3 women in designer sunglasses. Money moved differently here. So if she did sell it, then she committed fraud, forged your signature on the sale documents, or somehow convinced a title company to bypass the requirements. Drew's voice had gone sharp, professional. When did this supposedly happen? She said 3 days ago, closed yesterday. I'll make calls. Our firm handles the title insurance for half the residential properties in Westchester County. If there's a fraudulent sale, we'll find it. A pause. David, I have to ask, is everything okay with you two? She's leaving me for someone else. Says she's pregnant. Jesus. Another pause, longer. I'm sorry, man. I don't know what to say. Don't say anything yet. Just find out what actually happened with the house. I'm on it. Give me a few hours. I hung up and went back inside where the air conditioner blasted me with cold air. The coffee had gone lukewarm while I was outside. I ordered another one and pulled out my tablet, starting to build a timeline. 8 months, Jennifer had said. That would put the start of her relationship with Trevor Halston around January. Right after I'd taken on the Dubai contract project that required monthly overseas trips, convenient timing. My phone buzzed again. Richard Kim this time. Talk to me, I said. Trevor Halston, age 34, works as a commercial real estate broker for Coldwell Banker in White Plains. Divorced 3 years ago. One kid he sees every other weekend. Average performer, nothing spectacular. Drives a leased BMW, lives in a 2-bedroom apartment in Harrison. I'd asked Richard to pull basic background information, nothing intrusive, just the kind of thing anyone could find with a few strategic Google searches and some professional database access. Credit score? I asked. Mid-600s. He's leveraged. Carries about $80,000 in credit card balances, mostly from the divorce settlement. His ex-wife got the house and half his retirement accounts. Interesting. A man barely keeping his financial head above water, suddenly involved with my wife, who's talking about buying property together. I wondered whose money they'd be using for that. One more thing, Richard said. I ran the address you gave me, your house on Riverside Drive. According to public records, it's still registered in your name and Jennifer's. No recent sale, no transfer of title. Whatever she told you, it hasn't gone through official channels. I felt something unclench in my chest. You're sure? Checked 3 different databases. Your house is still your house, at least on paper. Now, that doesn't mean she didn't try something shady, but if she did, it hasn't been recorded yet. Thanks, Richard. Send me your invoice. Forget the invoice. Just promise me you're not going to do anything stupid. I almost laughed. Define stupid. You know what I mean? Whatever's happening here, let the lawyers handle it. That's the plan. I hung up and sat back, watching the hotel lobby fill up with businessmen in expensive suits and tourists in vacation gear. My coffee had gone cold again. I didn't care. Jennifer had lied. Not just about the affair, that was probably real enough, given how specific the details were, but the house sale, fiction, a pressure tactic maybe, or a test to see how I'd react. She'd expected panic, maybe desperation. Instead, I'd given her calm acceptance, and that had thrown her off her script. My phone buzzed with an incoming email. Drew Bennett. Called the title company we use. No pending sales on your property. No recent inquiries either. Also checked with the county recorder's office. Nothing filed. Your house is still jointly owned, no changes. Whatever Jennifer told you, it's not true. Call me when you can. I forwarded the email to myself on 3 different accounts, then saved a screenshot to my cloud storage. Documentation, everything from now on would be documented. The thing about logistics work, real logistics, not the stuff you see in movies, is that it's all about sequences. You can't load container B until container A is in position. You can't ship anything until customs clears it. You can't deliver goods until someone signs for them. Everything has an order, a specific chain of events that has to happen in the right sequence or the whole system collapses. Jennifer had just handed me a sequence. Affair starts in January. I'm traveling more. She gets close to Trevor. They make plans. She calls me in Dubai with her dramatic announcement, expecting me to panic from 6,000 miles away where I can't immediately do anything about it. But she'd rushed it. Jumped ahead in the sequence. Told me about a house sale that hadn't happened yet. Maybe thought I wouldn't be able to verify it from overseas. She'd underestimated 2 things. How quickly I could check public records and how calm I'd stay under pressure. My phone rang. Jennifer. I let it go to voicemail, then watched as she called again immediately. The 3rd time, I picked up. What is it? Where are you? Her voice was tight, strained. I've been calling all morning. Still in Dubai. My flight leaves tonight. You need to come home now. I stood up, walked toward the elevator. Time to pack. That's the plan. I'll be back Thursday afternoon. No, I mean now. Today. Take an earlier flight. Why? She hesitated, and in that pause I heard something new. Uncertainty, maybe fear. We need to talk. About what I said yesterday. I think we should discuss this in person. I thought you were in California with Trevor. I am. I was. We came back early. Something came up. I pressed the elevator button, waited. What came up? Just, can you come home, please? The please was new, too. Jennifer didn't do please. She did directives, expectations, ultimatums. Please was foreign territory. My contract obligations don't work that way, I told her, which was partly true. I have final meetings tomorrow, then I fly out tomorrow night. I'll be home Thursday afternoon, like I said. David, I'll text you my flight information. We can talk when I land. I hung up before she could argue, then blocked my number from her incoming calls. She could leave voicemails. I'd check them later, maybe. The elevator arrived, and I rode it up to my floor, thinking about sequences again. Jennifer had expected me home early, probably thought I'd drop everything and rush back. When I didn't, it disrupted her timeline. Whatever she'd planned, whatever dramatic confrontation or strategic advantage she'd been counting on, it required me to react predictably. I'd learned a long time ago that the best way to deal with pressure was to slow everything down. Take your time, verify information, never make decisions based on panic. In my room, I started packing methodically. Suits first, rolled to prevent wrinkles. Shoes wrapped in plastic bags. Toiletries in a separate compartment. I'd been doing this for 3 years now, ever since TransLogic started expanding their Middle East operations. I could pack a suitcase in 7 minutes and have everything arrive home wrinkle-free and organized. My phone kept buzzing with incoming texts from Jennifer. I ignored them all. Instead, I opened my laptop and started a new document. Timeline.sx. Column A, dates. Column B, events. Column C, verification sources. Column D, questions to answer. January 2024, affair begins, per Jennifer's statement. March 2024, I accept Dubai contract role April present, monthly overseas trips. October 15th, Jennifer's phone call, house sale claim verified false. October 16th, Jennifer's panic calls, reason unclear. I stared at that last line. Something had spooked her. Something between her triumphant announcement last night and her desperate calls this morning. What had changed? My phone rang again. Not Jennifer this time, Drew Bennett. I talked to some people, he said without preamble. Your wife made inquiries about selling the house. Contacted a real estate agent 6 weeks ago, started the paperwork for a quick sale. But when it came time to actually close, the title company flagged the power of attorney issue. They told her she needed your signature. 6 weeks ago, I repeated. That's right. So she's been planning this for a while, but she couldn't pull the trigger without you, my guess. She thought if she announced it as already done, you'd just go along with it to avoid the hassle of fighting, fait accompli, and all that. Except I didn't go along with it. Except you didn't. And now she's probably realizing she overplayed her hand. Drew cleared his throat. There's something else. I did some digging on Trevor Halston. The guy's finances are a mess, but he's also got an active LLC registered in Delaware, Thalston Properties, filed about 8 months ago. 8 months, the same time frame Jennifer had given for their relationship. Let me guess, I said. He's been trying to flip properties. Trying being the operative word. 2 deals so far, both lost money. He's not particularly good at this. But here's the interesting part. The LLC shows a capital injection of $50,000 in August. Cash deposit, no loan documentation. I sat down on the edge of the bed. Jennifer? That'd be my guess. She's been bankrolling his business ventures with our money. With community property, yes, which in New York State means you have grounds for a lawsuit if you want to pursue it. Misappropriation of marital assets. I thought about that. $50,000. Not enough to destroy us financially, but enough to sting. Enough to show a pattern of deception. Thanks, Drew. Keep digging. I want to know everything. Where the money went, what properties he tried to buy, who else is involved. You got it. And David, document everything from your end, too. Every phone call, every text message. This is going to get messy. After he hung up, I sat there in the Dubai hotel room, watching the afternoon light shift across the walls. Jennifer had been planning this for at least 6 weeks, maybe longer. She'd moved money without telling me. She'd tried to sell our house without my knowledge. She'd built this elaborate exit strategy, probably with Trevor whispering encouragement in her ear. And then she'd called me in Dubai, expecting her announcement to land like a bomb. Instead, I'd given her nothing. And now she was calling me back, desperate for me to come home early. Something had gone wrong with her plan. Something she hadn't anticipated. I opened my laptop and started a new document. Not a spreadsheet this time, a simple text file. Things Jennifer doesn't know. 1. I know the house sale was fake. 2. I know about the $50,000. 3. I know Trevor's business is failing. 4. I know she expected me to panic 5. I'm not panicking. I saved the file, encrypted it, backed it up to 3 different cloud services. Then I pulled up my calendar and looked at the next 3 months. I had planned trips, scheduled meetings, contracts to fulfill, but nothing that couldn't be rearranged if necessary, nothing that couldn't be shifted around to accommodate a new priority. My phone buzzed. Another text from Jennifer. Please call me. We need to talk. It's important. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened a browser and bought a new return ticket. Not for Thursday, but for Friday evening. An extra day in Dubai. Time to finish my meetings properly. Time to let Jennifer stew in whatever situation she'd created for herself. Time to think about sequences. Because if there's one thing logistics teaches you, it's this. The person who controls the timing controls everything. Wednesday morning, I met with the Emirati logistics team one final time to review our contract terms. The negotiations had gone smoothly, almost suspiciously smoothly, and by noon we'd signed the final documents. The contract would bring TransLogic about $12 million in revenue over the next 18 months, which meant a decent bonus for me if it went well. I should have felt something. Pride, maybe, relief. Instead, I felt like I was watching someone else's life through a thick pane of glass. After the meeting, I took a taxi to the Burj Khalifa and rode the elevator to the observation deck. Tourist behavior, completely out of character for me, but I needed the space to think. Up there, looking down at the geometric precision of Dubai's streets, I finally checked Jennifer's voicemails, 7 of them. The first 3 were variations on the same theme. Call me back. We need to talk. This is important. Her voice was tight, controlled, but I could hear the edges fraying. The 4th one was different. David, I talked to a lawyer. He says what you're doing is financial manipulation, freezing me out, refusing to communicate. He says I can file an emergency petition with the court if you don't respond within 24 hours. I don't want to do that, but you're not leaving me any choice. I almost laughed. Financial manipulation. From the woman who'd tried to sell our house without permission and funneled $50,000 to her boyfriend's failing business venture. The 5th voicemail. Trevor thinks you're bluffing. He says you'll cave when you realize how serious I am. But I know you better than that, don't I? You're planning something. You always are. Just, whatever it is, can we talk about it like adults? The 6th. My lawyer's name is Paul Whitmore. Maybe you've heard of him. He specializes in complex divorce cases. He says I have grounds for a protection order based on your behavior. The silent treatment, the refusal to engage. He's calling it emotional abuse. I replayed that one twice. Emotional abuse. I'd given her exactly what she'd claimed to want. Calm acceptance, no drama, no fighting. And now she was reframing it as abuse because it wasn't the reaction she'd expected. The 7th voicemail was shorter, quieter. I'm scared, David. Not of you. I know you'd never hurt me. But I'm scared of what's happening. This isn't us. This isn't how we handle things. Please, just call me. Let's figure this out together. I deleted all 7 messages and called Drew Bennett. Paul Whitmore, I said when he picked up. What do you know about him? The divorce attorney? He's aggressive, goes for the throat, tends to take cases where there's significant assets to fight over. A pause. Jennifer hired him? Apparently. She's threatening an emergency petition if I don't respond to her within 24 hours. That's not how emergency petitions work. You can't just file one because your spouse isn't answering your phone calls. The court requires evidence of immediate danger or irreparable harm. Drew's voice took on that lawyer explaining things tone. He's bluffing, trying to pressure you into engaging before you've had time to get your own representation. So what do I do? 2 things. First, hire your own attorney. I can recommend someone, Catherine Reeves. She's brilliant and she doesn't play games. Second, do not contact Jennifer directly anymore. Everything goes through the lawyers from now on. I watched the city below, all those lives moving in their precise patterns. What about the money she moved, the $50,000? That's trickier. Community property means she technically had access to it. But if we can prove she moved it to benefit a third party, specifically her boyfriend's business, then we can argue misappropriation. It won't be criminal, but it'll strengthen your position in the divorce settlement. I want more than a strong position, Drew. I want her to understand what she did. Silence on the other end. When Drew spoke again, his voice was careful. David, I'm your friend first and your lawyer second. So as your friend, I need to ask, what exactly are you planning here? Nothing illegal. That's not what I asked. I turned away from the window, found a bench near the elevator. An Indian family was taking selfies, the kids laughing and pushing each other. Normal life, continuing around me. She tried to destroy me, I said quietly. Sold our house. or at least convinced me she had. Moved our money. Built a whole new life with someone else, all while I was overseas working to support us. And when she told me about it, she was gloating, like she'd won some game I didn't even know we were playing. Okay. And now that her plan didn't work, now that I didn't react the way she expected, she's scared. She's trying to reframe everything, make me look like the villain. Emotional abuse? Can you believe that? I believe she's desperate, Drew said, which makes her dangerous. People do stupid things when they are desperate. I'm not going to hurt her. I didn't say you would, but there's a difference between protecting yourself and seeking revenge. One is justified, the other will destroy you. I thought about that, about revenge, about justice, about the space between them. What if I told you I just want her to face consequences, real consequences, not just splitting assets in a divorce? Then I'd say welcome to the club. Every person who's been cheated on wants that. But the law doesn't really do consequences for infidelity anymore. No-fault divorce means exactly that. No fault, no punishment. There are other ways to hold people accountable. Drew went quiet for a long moment. David, you're one of the smartest people I know. You think 3 steps ahead of everyone else, but that same quality that makes you great at your job, it can work against you in situations like this. You start strategizing, planning, building these elaborate scenarios in your head, and sometimes that prevents you from seeing the simpler path, which is file for divorce. Split everything 50-50. Move on with your life. Don't let her take up more of your energy than she already has. I watched the Indian family pile into the elevator, still laughing. That's the simpler path. It's the healthier one anyway. I'll think about it, I said, which was true. I would think about it. I'd think about it and reject it, but I'd definitely think about it first. After I hung up, I sat there for another hour, watching the sun track across the sky. My flight back to New York left tomorrow night. That gave me roughly 30 hours to finalize my strategy. I pulled out my phone and opened the Notes app. Started typing. What Jennifer has: Paul Whitmore, aggressive but predictable. Trevor Halston, liability, not asset. Pregnancy claim, unverified. Narrative about checked-out husband, partially true. What I have: documentation of fake house sale, evidence of misappropriated funds, clean financial record, professional reputation, patience. That last one was the important one. Jennifer had always been impulsive, reactive. She'd made her move too early, announced victory before securing it. Classic mistake. I pulled up my contacts and found Catherine Raves's number. Drew had mentioned her before, usually in the context of the best divorce attorney in Westchester. I'd never thought I'd need that information. She answered on the second ring. Catherine Reeves. Ms. Reeves, my name is David Foster. Drew Bennett referred me. I need representation in a divorce case. I see. And where are you currently, Mr. Foster? Dubai. I fly back tomorrow night. All right. I can see you Friday afternoon if that works. 3 o'clock? Perfect. Bring everything. Financial records, tax returns, property documents, any communication with your spouse. Everything. I will. And Mr. Foster, until we meet, do not, and I mean do not, contact your wife directly. No phone calls, no texts, no emails. If she reaches out, you forward it to me. Understood? Understood. After the call, I felt something shift in my chest. Not relief exactly, more like alignment, like pieces moving into their proper positions. I spent the rest of the afternoon in my hotel room organizing documents. Bank statements going back 3 years, credit card records, mortgage papers, the power of attorney that Jennifer had tried to use. Every email I could find about our finances, about the house, about anything that might be relevant. At 6 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number with a New York area code. I answered. David Foster. Mr. Foster, this is Paul Whitmore. I represent Jennifer Foster in the dissolution of your marriage. His voice was smooth, practiced. The kind of voice that had talked countless people into settlements they didn't want. I've been advised not to speak with you directly, I said. Yes, I'm sure Drew Bennett told you that. But I'm not calling to negotiate, Mr. Foster. I'm calling as a courtesy. Your wife is willing to make this simple. She gets the house, you keep your retirement accounts. Clean split, no drama. She can't get the house. She tried to sell it without my permission. A pause. I don't know what you're referring to. Then you should ask your client. Mr. Foster, I've been doing this for 20 years. I've seen every strategy, every game, every attempt to gain leverage. What you're doing right now, it's not clever. It's just going to make this more expensive for both of you. I looked out my hotel window at the darkening city. I'm not playing games, Mr. Whitmore. I'm getting my affairs in order. There's a difference. Your wife is prepared to file a petition alleging financial misconduct, hiding assets, refusing to provide information about your income and holdings. The court won't look kindly on that. I haven't hidden anything. Every dollar I make is documented. Every account I have is in both our names. You know this. You've probably already done your research. Another pause, longer this time. What do you want, Mr. Foster? I want my wife to explain why she tried to convince me she sold our house when she didn't. I want her to explain where $50,000 of our money went. And I want her to stop threatening me with legal action for not responding to phone calls. I see. His voice had gone cooler now, professional distance replacing the fake friendliness. Then we'll let the court sort it out. Expect to be served with papers when you land back in New York. He hung up before I could respond. I sat there, phone still in my hand, feeling oddly calm. The lines were drawn now. Paul Whitmore knew I wasn't going to roll over. Jennifer knew I wasn't coming home early to have some tearful confrontation. Trevor Halston probably knew that his girlfriend's easy divorce had just gotten complicated. My phone buzzed with a text from Richard Kim. Found something interesting. Call me when you can. I called immediately. Trevor Halston's LLC, Richard said. Halston Properties. You asked me to keep digging. What did you find? He's got a business partner, or had one anyway, guy named Marcus Bishop. They filed the LLC together back in January, but Bishop pulled out in March. Filed dissolution paperwork, retrieved his initial investment. Why'd he pull out? According to the paperwork, fundamental disagreement about business practices. But I talked to a guy I know in commercial real estate, showed him the names. He says Bishop's got a reputation for being careful, methodical. Won't touch a deal unless the numbers are perfect. Whatever Halston was planning, Bishop didn't think it would work. I felt that tingle again, the same one I'd felt when Drew told me about the $50,000. What happened to Bishop's investment? Good question. The dissolution agreement says Halston bought him out for $30,000. Where'd he get that money? From Jennifer. That'd be my guess. So she's been bankrolling this guy's business for at least 8 months, maybe longer. Richard paused. David, this guy's a user. Classic pattern. Finds someone with money, convinces them to fund his dreams, then bails when things go south. Your wife isn't his first rodeo. How many others? His ex-wife, for starters. She mentioned in their divorce proceedings that he'd run up significant credit card debt investing in business opportunities that never panned out. Before that, he was engaged to someone else. That ended when she found out he'd forged her signature on a loan application. I stood up, started pacing the hotel room. Forged her signature. Yep, she didn't press charges, just broke off the engagement. But it's on record if you know where to look. Richard, I could kiss you right now. He laughed. Save it for when I send you my final report. But yeah, this guy's got a history. Your wife just doesn't know it yet. After we hung up, I sat down at the laptop and opened a new document. This one I titled simply, Timeline Revised.xlx. Because Jennifer's affair wasn't just about romance or midlife crisis or whatever story she'd been telling herself. It was about money. Trevor Halston had found a woman with access to funds and a husband who traveled constantly. Easy target. And she'd been so caught up in the attention, the excitement of being wanted, that she'd missed the pattern. $50,000 so far. How much more had she promised him? What other investments had they discussed? I pulled up our joint credit card statements and started scanning. There, a payment to a property inspection company in June, another to a commercial real estate attorney in July, small charges, a few $100s here and there, but they added up, and they all coincided with Trevor's failed business ventures. She'd been financing his dreams while I'd been financing our life. My phone buzzed. Text from Jennifer. I know you're reading these. Paul says you probably are, even if you're not responding. I just want you to know. This doesn't have to be a war. We can be adults about this. I stared at the message for a long moment, then opened my notes app and added one more line. What Jennifer doesn't know yet, her boyfriend is a con artist. Then I turned off my phone and went to sleep. The flight from Dubai landed at JFK Friday evening at 6:47 p.m. I'd spent 13 hours in the air thinking about sequences, about timing, about the precise choreography of what came next. By the time we touched down, I had a plan. Not the whole thing. Some pieces still needed to fall into place, but the opening moves were clear. I cleared customs, collected my bag, and walked out into the arrivals hall. And there she was. Jennifer stood near the exit, wearing a cream-colored dress I'd bought her last Christmas. Her hair was different, shorter, styled in that way she'd always talked about but never committed to. She looked smaller somehow, more fragile than I remembered. Her hands were clasped in front of her, knuckles white. Next to her stood a man I assumed was Trevor Halston. Tall, maybe 6'2", with that kind of artificial tan that comes from a salon. He wore a blazer over jeans, trying too hard to look casual. His arm was around Jennifer's waist, but the gesture looked protective rather than possessive. He was scared. I stopped about 10 feet away from them, my rolling suitcase clicking to a halt beside me. "David." Jennifer's voice cracked on my name. "Thank God. We've been waiting for hours." "My flight was delayed," I lied. It had landed exactly on time. I'd just taken my time at baggage claim, letting them wait. "What are you doing here?" "We need to talk." She glanced at Trevor, then back at me. "Can we go somewhere? Get coffee or something?" I looked at Trevor. Up close, I could see the signs of stress, dark circles under his eyes, a muscle twitching in his jaw. His expensive blazer couldn't hide the fact that he hadn't slept well recently. "You must be Trevor," I said. He straightened, trying to project confidence. "That's right. Listen, man, I know this is awkward, but..." "It's not awkward," I interrupted. "Awkward is when you accidentally use someone else's toothbrush. This is something else entirely." Jennifer stepped forward. "David, please, can we just talk like civilized people?" "I thought you wanted a divorce. That's what your lawyer told my lawyer. Papers being filed, emergency petitions, financial misconduct allegations. Didn't sound like you wanted to talk." "That was Paul's idea," she said quickly. "He thinks we need to be aggressive to protect my interests. But I told him I just want us to work this out fairly." I studied her face. She was good. I had to give her that. The right amount of vulnerability, the perfect balance of regret and determination. If I hadn't spent the last week documenting her lies, I might have believed her. "Fair," I repeated. "Let's talk about fair. You told me you sold our house. That was a lie. You told me you had power of attorney to do it. That was also a lie. You moved $50,000 of our money to Trevor's business account without telling me. Want to explain how that's fair?" Her face went pale. Trevor's arm tightened around her waist. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, but her voice had gone thin. "Thelston Properties, LLC registered in Delaware. Capital injection of $50,000 in August. Your signature on the transfer paperwork." I pulled out my phone, opened the email from Richard Kim with the documentation. "Want me to keep going?" Trevor spoke up. "That was a loan, for investment purposes. Jennifer believed in my business model." "Your business model, where you lose money on every property you touch? That business model?" I looked at him directly now, watching his expression shift. "Or should we talk about Marcus Bishop, your former business partner who bailed after 3 months because he saw what you really were?" "You've been investigating me?" Trevor's voice rose, drawing looks from passing travelers. "That's insane. You're stalking us." "I'm protecting my assets. There's a difference." I turned back to Jennifer. "You wanted to talk? Fine. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going home, to our house, which you don't actually have any legal right to kick me out of. Tomorrow morning, I'm meeting with my attorney, and then we're going to have a very detailed conversation about how to divide everything fairly." "Oh, David, wait." Jennifer reached out, but I stepped back before she could touch me. "I made mistakes. I know that. But we can fix this. The money, I'll pay it back. The house, we can figure something out. Just don't make this ugly." "I didn't make it ugly," I said quietly. "You did that when you called me in Dubai and gloated about destroying our life together. You did that when you moved our money to finance your boyfriend's failed dreams. You made it ugly, Jennifer. I'm just choosing not to pretend otherwise." I started walking toward the exit. Behind me, I heard Trevor say something angry, Jennifer's voice rising in response. I didn't look back. The parking garage was cold and echo-filled. I found my truck, my supposedly sold truck, right where I'd left it before flying to Dubai. The keys were in my carry-on bag, everything exactly as it should be. I drove home through Friday night traffic, taking the familiar route up the Hutchinson River Parkway. Our house, my house, sat on a quiet street in Scarsdale, a colonial-style place we'd bought 8 years ago when Jennifer's promotion had come through. White siding, black shutters, a maple tree in the front yard that turned brilliant red every October. I parked in the driveway and sat for a moment, looking at the place. Lights were on inside. Jennifer had clearly been living here while I was gone, probably with Trevor. My home, occupied by the person trying to take it from me. I grabbed my suitcase and walked to the front door. My key still worked. She hadn't changed the locks. Inside, everything looked different. Furniture rearranged, new throw pillows on the couch, pictures of us together removed from the walls, leaving pale rectangles where they'd hung. I climbed the stairs to our bedroom. My things had been moved, clothes boxed up, Personal items stacked neatly in the corner. The bed had new sheets, a different comforter. She'd tried to erase me from the space. I unpacked methodically, hanging my suits back in the closet, putting my toiletries back in the bathroom, reclaiming territory. My phone buzzed. Text from Catherine Reeves, my new attorney. Received service notice from opposing counsel. They're filing Monday morning. We need to meet tomorrow, 9 a.m. sharp. My office. Come prepared to spend several hours going through everything. I texted back confirmation, then sat down on the edge of the bed, my bed, and pulled out my laptop. The investigation file Richard had sent me was comprehensive. Trevor Halston wasn't just a failed real estate investor. He was a pattern. 3 serious relationships in the past 10 years, all ending when the women discovered financial irregularities. The first one had been the forged loan application. The second had involved credit cards opened in her name without permission. His ex-wife had been smarter. She'd kept everything separate, but she'd still found herself paying off his debts as part of their divorce settlement. And now Jennifer. Smart, successful Jennifer who'd somehow missed every red flag. Or maybe she hadn't missed them. Maybe she'd seen them and convinced herself she could change him, fix him, be different from all the other women. People do that. They see warning signs and interpret them as challenges. I opened a new document and started writing. Timeline. Trevor Halston. 2014. Engaged to Amy Peterson. Broke off when she discovered forged loan application. 2016. Relationship with Dana Walsh. Ended when she found credit cards in her name. 2018-2021. Marriage to Rebecca Halston. Divorce proceedings mention significant debt accumulation. 2024. Relationship with Jennifer Foster begins. Within 8 months has received $50,000+ in investment funds. The pattern was clear. Trevor found women with financial stability and slowly drained them. Not through force or obvious theft, but through manipulation. Investments that would definitely pay off. Business opportunities that just needed a little more capital. Loans that were really partnerships. Jennifer had walked right into it. My phone rang. Unknown number again. I let it go to voicemail, then listened. Paul Whitmore's voice, tight with controlled anger. Mr. Foster, this is becoming ridiculous. Your wife came to the airport tonight as a gesture of good faith, hoping to resolve this amicably. Instead, you humiliated her in public. This kind of behavior will not reflect well in court. I strongly suggest you reconsider your approach before Monday's filing. I deleted the message and pulled up my email. Drew Bennett had sent over the contact information for several investigators, people who specialized in financial forensics. One name stood out. Lisa Chen, former FBI financial crimes specialist, now private consultant. I sent her an email with the basic details, asked for a consultation Monday afternoon. Outside, I heard a car pull into the driveway. Doors slamming, voices raised. Jennifer and Trevor had followed me home. I walked to the window and looked down. They were standing next to Trevor's BMW, arguing. Jennifer was crying, her hands gesturing wildly. Trevor kept looking up at the house, his expression somewhere between anger and fear. Good. Let him be scared. My phone buzzed. Text from Jennifer. Please let us in. We need to get some of my things. I didn't respond. After 5 minutes, they got back in the car and drove away. I spent the next 2 hours going through the house, documenting everything. What had been moved, what was missing, what was new. I took photos of the rearranged furniture, the empty spots on the walls, the boxes of my belongings stacked in corners, evidence of her attempt to erase me. In the kitchen, I found receipts tucked into a drawer, restaurants I'd never been to, hotels downtown, a jewelry store purchase from September, $200 for something I'd never seen Jennifer wear. I photographed all of it. At midnight, I finally allowed myself to feel it, the weight of what had happened, what was happening. Not rage exactly. Something colder, more focused. Jennifer had tried to destroy the life we'd built together. She'd lied, stolen, manipulated. And when I hadn't reacted the way she'd expected, she'd tried to rewrite the narrative, make me the villain. But I wasn't the villain. I was just someone who understood sequences, timing, and the importance of controlling the pace. I pulled out my phone and opened the Notes app. Started a new file. Phase 1. Documentation, complete. Verified all financial irregularities, confirmed Trevor's pattern of behavior, established timeline of deception, secured legal representation. Phase 2. Legal foundation, in progress. Meeting with Catherine Reeves tomorrow. Responding to Monday's filing, financial forensics consultation, discovery requests for all transactions. Phase 3. Social consequences, pending. Identify Jennifer's professional vulnerabilities. Document Trevor's business failures. Prepare strategic disclosures. Timing, TBD based on legal positioning. Phase 4, final resolution, planned, details to be determined. Must be legal, irreversible, and complete. Timeline. When maximum impact can be achieved, I saved the file, encrypted it, backed it up. Then I went to bed in my own house, in my own room, and slept better than I had in weeks. Catherine Reeves's office occupied the entire third floor of a renovated Victorian in downtown White Plains. I arrived at 8:45 a.m., carrying 2 file boxes of documents and a laptop bag containing 3 years of financial records. The receptionist, a efficient-looking woman in her 50s, directed me to a conference room. "Ms. Reeves will be with you shortly. Coffee?" "Black, thanks." The conference room had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Main Street. Saturday morning shoppers moved along the sidewalks below, carrying bags, walking dogs, living their normal lives. I wondered how many of them were one phone call away from their own version of this. Catherine Reeves entered at exactly 9 o'clock. She was shorter than I'd expected, maybe 5'4", with gray-streaked hair pulled back in a neat bun. She wore a navy suit and carried a yellow legal pad. "Mr. Foster." Her handshake was firm, her gaze direct. "I've reviewed the preliminary information Drew sent over. Let me start by saying this. What your wife did was incredibly stupid." I almost smiled. "That's your professional opinion?" "That's my professional observation. Attempting to sell marital property without proper authorization, moving significant funds to a third party, filing threats of legal action when called on it." She sat down across from me, opened her legal pad. "Most divorce attorneys would advise caution, strategic patience. Paul Whitmore is not most attorneys. He's going to come at you hard, try to overwhelm you with motions and allegations. His strategy relies on people cracking under pressure. I don't crack. I've been doing this for 23 years, Mr. Foster. Everyone cracks eventually. The question is whether you crack before we've secured your position." She pulled out a pen. "Now, I need to know everything. Start from the beginning." I spent the next 3 hours walking her through it. The phone call in Dubai. Jennifer's claims about the house sale. The discovery that it was all fabricated. The $50,000 moved to Trevor's business, the pattern of financial deception stretching back months. Catherine took notes, asked pointed questions, occasionally pulled up documents on her laptop to verify details. She didn't react emotionally to any of it. No sympathy, no outrage, just methodical documentation of facts. When I finished, she sat back and studied her notes. "Here's what we have," she said. "Clear evidence of financial mismanagement of marital assets. Attempted fraud regarding the house sale. Even though it didn't go through, the attempt itself is relevant. A pattern of deception and concealment. And a boyfriend with a documented history of financial manipulation. What does that get us? In the divorce settlement? Probably an uneven split in your favor. New York is technically a no-fault state, but judges have discretion when it comes to equitable distribution. If we can prove she deliberately wasted marital assets to benefit a third party, you'll get more than 50%. And the house? That's trickier. Joint property, both names on the title. In a normal case, we'd be looking at either a sale with split proceeds or one party buying out the other. But given the circumstances, she tapped her pen against the legal pad. We might be able to argue she's forfeited her right to it through attempted fraud. It's not guaranteed, but there's precedent. I thought about that. The house represented 8 years of our life together, but it also represented Jennifer's attempted betrayal. The place where she'd brought Trevor while I was overseas. The home she'd tried to sell out from under me. I want her out, I said. Not just legally. I want her to understand that actions have consequences. Catherine's expression didn't change, but something shifted in her eyes. Mr. Foster, my job is to protect your legal interests and secure the best possible settlement. It's not my job to help you punish your wife. I'm not asking you to do anything unethical. No, but you're asking me to be part of something that goes beyond standard divorce proceedings. I need to know, are you planning something that could come back to hurt your case? I met her gaze. Everything I do will be legal and above board. I'm not going to harass her, threaten her, or do anything that violates court orders. But I'm also not going to make this easy for her. She made choices. Those choices will have consequences. Catherine studied me for a long moment. All right, but understand this. If you do anything, that gives Whitmore ammunition to paint you as vindictive or unstable, it will hurt us in court. Judges don't like revenge plots. They like clean, reasonable people who follow the rules. I understand. Do you? Because I've seen smart people destroy their own cases by getting emotional. They start making decisions based on anger instead of strategy, and suddenly they're losing arguments they should have won. That won't happen. She made a note on her legal pad. We'll see. Now, let's talk about Monday. Whitmore is filing for divorce with allegations of financial misconduct on your part. We're going to file a counter motion with our own allegations, plus a request for immediate financial accounting from Jennifer. I want every bank statement, every credit card transaction, every check written in the past 3 years. How long will that take? In discovery? Weeks, possibly months. But we can expedite some of it. I'm going to request an emergency hearing to freeze marital assets pending the outcome of the case. That means neither of you can make any major financial moves without court approval. She won't like that. She'll hate it, which tells me it's the right move. Catherine closed her legal pad. One more thing. This investigator you mentioned, Richard Kim, his reports are detailed, but we need to be careful how we use them. Anything that looks like stalking or invasion of privacy could backfire. He only pulled public records and professional information, nothing illegal. Public records are fine. Financial databases, property filings, court documents, all fair game. But if he starts following people around or accessing private information, we're done. Clear? Clear. Good. Now go home, try to relax, and do not contact Jennifer or Trevor directly. Everything goes through me or Paul Whitmore. If they show up at your house, you document it, but don't engage. If they call, let it go to voicemail. If they send emails, forward them to me immediately. I stood up, collected my file boxes. What are our chances, realistically? Catherine walked me to the door. Based on what you've shown me, 70-30 in your favor for the settlement, maybe 60-40 on keeping the house, but that assumes nothing changes, no new surprises, no self-inflicted wounds on our part. And if I wanted better odds? She gave me a sharp look. Then you'd need Jennifer to make more mistakes. Big, documented mistakes that even Paul Whitmore can't spin away. Think she's capable of that? I thought about Jennifer at the airport, desperate and off balance. Thought about Trevor Halston, scared and cornered. Thought about how people make their worst decisions when they're under pressure. Yeah, I said. I think she is. After leaving Catherine's office, I drove to a coffee shop in Harrison and opened my laptop. Time to work on Phase 3. Jennifer worked as a senior project manager at Riverside Consulting, a mid-sized firm that handled corporate restructuring. She'd been there for 6 years, worked her way up from associate to senior level. Her reputation there was solid, competent, organized, professional. But reputations are fragile things. They take years to build and moments to destroy. I pulled up the Riverside Consulting website and started researching the firm's current projects, their client list, the executive team structure. Jennifer's LinkedIn profile listed her as the lead on 3 major accounts, including a pharmaceutical company restructuring that was supposed to wrap up by year-end. Then I pulled up my email archives and searched for every message Jennifer had sent me from her work account. There were hundreds, quick check-ins during the day, scheduling discussions, the occasional vent about difficult clients or coworkers. And there, buried in a thread from July, something interesting. Working late again tonight. This pharma client is insane. They want deliverables on impossible timelines. Trevor says I should just tell them it can't be done. But you know me, I hate disappointing people. Even when they're being unreasonable, Trevor says. She'd been discussing work matters with Trevor, probably showing him client information, maybe even documentation. That was a confidentiality violation. Riverside Consulting had strict policies about that. I kept searching, found another one from August. The managing partner keeps pushing back on my recommendations. I think he's threatened by strong women in leadership. Trevor thinks I should document everything in case I need to file a complaint, Trevor thinks. Again. And this time, she was talking about internal company politics, discussing potential legal action against her employer. I made copies of both emails, saved them to an encrypted folder. Then I pulled up the New York State Bar Association website and started researching attorney ethics rules. Paul Whitmore was aggressive, maybe too aggressive. If I could find evidence he'd encouraged Jennifer to do something unethical or illegal. My phone buzzed. Text from Drew Bennett. How'd it go with Catherine? I called him back. She's good, scary, but good. She's the best. If anyone can navigate this mess, it's her. A pause. How are you holding up? Really? I'm fine. David, I've known you for 15 years. I can tell when you're in logistics mode. All strategy, no emotion. But this isn't a shipping container problem. This is your marriage ending. I watch people come and go from the coffee shop. Couples, families, solo laptop workers like me. I'll process the emotions later. Right now, I need to focus on protecting myself. Just don't lose sight of who you are in all this. Jennifer did something terrible, but that doesn't mean you need to become someone you're not to respond to it. I'm not becoming anyone. I'm just being thorough. Thorough. Drew's voice was skeptical. Is that what we're calling it? What would you call it? I'd call it a man planning something he's not telling his lawyer about, which worries me because usually that means it's something the lawyer would tell him not to do. I closed my laptop, suddenly tired. Drew, what did you expect? That I'd just roll over and let her take whatever she wants? That I'd sign papers and walk away like none of this mattered? No. I expected you to be smart about it, to use the system, work through the legal channels, come out ahead without compromising yourself. That is what I'm doing. Is it? Because from where I'm sitting, it sounds like you're building a case for something bigger than divorce proceedings. It sounds like you're planning to take her apart piece by piece. I didn't answer. David, listen to me. Revenge isn't justice. It's just pain you're inflicting to balance out pain you received, and it never actually balances. It just creates more damage. You think she deserves protection? I think you deserve to come out of this as the man you were before it started, not as someone who let bitterness turn him into something else. I hung up without saying goodbye, immediately felt bad about it, but didn't call back. Instead, I sat there in the coffee shop, surrounded by the ambient noise of espresso machines and conversation, and let myself think about what Drew had said. Was I planning revenge? Or was I just ensuring Jennifer faced appropriate consequences for her actions? The line between those two things seemed thinner than it should. My phone buzzed again, email this time, from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line read, "You should know the truth." I opened it cautiously. Mr. Foster, my name is Rebecca Halston. I was married to Trevor for 3 years. A mutual friend told me you might want to know about his history. I've attached some documents that might be useful. I should have warned other women before, but I was embarrassed. I don't want anyone else to go through what I did. If you need more information, you can reach me at this email. Attached were bank statements, credit card records, and court documents from their divorce proceedings. Page after page of Trevor's financial manipulation, small withdrawals that added up to thousands, credit cards opened in both their names but charged solely by him, investment schemes that lost money but generated fees for Trevor somehow. And at the bottom of one document, a note from Rebecca's divorce attorney. Pattern indicates intentional financial exploitation. Client was systematically drained of resources while maintaining appearance of partnership. I forwarded the entire email to Catherine Reeves with a note. Arrived unsolicited. Thought you should see. Then I opened a reply to Rebecca. Mrs. Halston, thank you for reaching out. I'm sorry you went through this. Your information will help ensure he can't do the same thing to anyone else. If you're willing to provide a statement or testimony, my attorney may be in touch. Her response came back within minutes. I'll do whatever it takes to stop him. My lawyer said I couldn't press charges back then because it was technically joint property. But if there's a way to make sure he faces consequences now, I'm ready. I saved the entire email chain, backed it up to 3 different locations. Phase 3 was coming together faster than I'd expected. Sunday afternoon, I was in the garage organizing my tools when I heard a car pull into the driveway. Through the window, I saw Trevor's BMW. He got out alone, walked up to the front door, rang the bell. I didn't answer. He rang again, then knocked. David, I know you're in there. Your truck's in the driveway. We need to talk. I walked to the door but didn't open it. My attorney told me not to communicate with you directly. This isn't about the divorce. This is... Look, man to man, can you just give me 5 minutes? Something in his voice made me pause. Not anger or aggression, desperation. I opened the door but stood in the doorway, blocking entry. 5 minutes. Trevor looked worse than he had at the airport. Unshaven, bloodshot eyes, his expensive blazer wrinkled like he'd slept in it. Jennifer's falling apart. She's been crying for 2 days straight. Won't eat, barely sleeps. I'm worried about her. Then take her to a doctor. She doesn't need a doctor. She needs you to stop whatever you're doing. I leaned against the doorframe. I'm not doing anything. I hired an attorney. I'm responding to the divorce filing she initiated. That's it. Come on. His voice rose. You've been investigating me, digging into my past, talking to my ex-wife. That's not responding to a divorce filing. That's something else. Your ex-wife reached out to me. I didn't contact her. Right, because these things just happen. People just randomly decide to send financial documents to strangers. He ran his hand through his hair. Look, I get it. You're angry. You have every right to be. But Jennifer's not some villain here. She fell in love. These things happen. We didn't plan it. You didn't plan taking $50,000 of my money either. Trevor's jaw tightened. That was an investment, a legitimate business opportunity. Jennifer believed in it. Jennifer believed in you. There's a difference. What's that supposed to mean? I pulled out my phone, opened the file Richard had sent me. You've had 3 serious relationships before Jennifer. In every single one, you ended up with access to the woman's finances. In every single one, you accumulated debt or losses they ended up covering. Your ex-wife called it a pattern. She used the word exploitation. Trevor's face went pale. That's not, I loved Rebecca. I love Jennifer. The business stuff, that's separate. Is it? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you find successful women, romance them, convince them to bankroll your dreams, and then move on when things fall apart. You don't know anything about me. I know enough. I know you filed for LLC with a partner who bailed after 3 months because he saw through you. I know Jennifer gave you the money to buy him out. I know you've lost money on every property you've touched. Should I keep going? Trevor took a step back, his hand gripping the porch railing. You can't use any of that. That's invasion of privacy or something. It's public record. Anyone can access it. But you're going to use it to destroy me, to make Jennifer think I'm some kind of con artist. I don't need to make her think anything. I just need to show her the facts and let her draw her own conclusions. He turned away, stared out at the street. When he spoke again, his voice was quieter, almost defeated. I do love her. Whatever you think about me, that part's real. Then you should have thought about that before you helped her try to steal my house. I didn't help her with that. I told her not to. I said it was too risky, that you'd find out. He turned back to face me. But she was so sure you wouldn't care. She said you'd been checked out for years, that you probably wanted out anyway. She thought she was just speeding up the inevitable. And the money she gave you? Trevor was quiet for a moment. She offered, said she wanted to invest in our future together. I should have said no. I know that now. But I really thought Thalston Properties could work. I thought this time it would be different. This time, I repeated. So you admit there were other times? My marriage fell apart because of bad investments. My relationship with Dana ended because I made mistakes with credit, but I learned from those things. I'm not the same person I was. You're exactly the same person. You just found someone new to finance your mistakes. His hands clenched into fists at his sides. For a moment, I thought he might actually take a swing at me. Instead, he took a deep breath and stepped back. What do you want? He asked. Really, not the legal stuff, not the settlement. What would it take for you to just walk away from this? Let Jennifer have the house, keep the money, move on with your life? I almost laughed. You think this is negotiable? You think I'm going to let you buy me off? Everyone has a price. Name yours. I want my wife to face consequences for lying to me, stealing from me, and trying to destroy everything we built together. I want her boyfriend, you, to face consequences for being a con artist who preys on women with money. And I want both of you to understand that actions have real, permanent results. Trevor's face hardened. You're going to regret this. Is that a threat? It's a fact. You think you can control this situation, keep everything neat and organized like one of your shipping manifests, but divorce is messy. People say things in court. Secrets come out. You might not like what gets revealed about you. I don't have secrets. Everyone has secrets. He turned and walked back toward his car, then paused and looked back. Jennifer told me about your first wife, about how that ended. Maybe the court should hear about that too. He got in his BMW and drove away before I could respond. I stood there on the porch, feeling something cold settle in my chest. My first wife, Sarah. We'd been married for 18 months when I was 25, divorced 6 months later. It had been messy and painful, and I'd spent the next several years trying to forget it happened. How much had I told Jennifer about Sarah? About the fights, the accusations, the way it had all fallen apart? I couldn't remember now. We'd talked about it once or twice early in our relationship, but I'd kept the details vague. Whatever Trevor thought he knew, whatever Jennifer had told him, it couldn't be that bad. Could it? I went back inside and pulled up my old email archives, searching for any mention of Sarah. Found a few scattered references from years ago. Casual mentions to friends, nothing substantive. Nothing that could be weaponized in divorce court. But still, Trevor had struck a nerve, and he knew it. My phone buzzed. Text from Jennifer. Trevor just told me what you said, about the pattern, the other women, all of it. Is it true? I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back. Ask him yourself. Or better yet, ask Rebecca Halston. She's happy to share her experience. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, I can't believe you'd stoop this low, dragging other people into our marriage, trying to turn me against Trevor. You're not the person I thought you were. I almost responded, almost pointed out the irony of her accusing me of not being who she thought when she'd been lying for months. Instead, I forwarded the text to Catherine Reeves with a note. For documentation. Then I put my phone on silent and went back to the garage. I spent the next 2 hours organizing tools, cleaning workbenches, doing mindless physical work that kept my hands busy and my mind focused. It was an old coping mechanism from my logistics days. When things got complicated, find something mechanical to do. Sort inventory, arrange pallets, verify shipment manifests. The predictability of it was soothing. By the time I finished, the garage was spotless. Every tool in its place, every surface wiped down. Order restored. My phone showed 6 missed calls from Jennifer and 3 from Trevor. I listened to the voicemails. Jennifer, first message. David, please call me. I need to understand what's happening. Trevor says you're accusing him of terrible things, but that can't be right. You don't even know him. Jennifer, second message. I talked to Rebecca. She said you contacted her. How dare you reach out to Trevor's ex-wife? That's crossing a line. I don't even know what that is, but it's not okay. Jennifer, third message. Why won't you answer? Why won't you talk to me? This is exactly what I meant when I said you shut down. You close yourself off and refuse to engage, and then wonder why people leave you. Trevor, first message. I'm calling my attorney tomorrow. What you're doing amounts to harassment, defamation. You're intentionally trying to destroy my business and my reputation. Trevor, second message. Rebecca never should have contacted you. Whatever she told you about our marriage, it's a lie. She was bitter about the divorce and made up stories to make herself feel better. Jennifer, fourth message. Her voice was different now, smaller. I looked at the documents Rebecca sent you, the ones you forwarded to your lawyer. I don't understand. Trevor said those investments were joint decisions. He said they were building something together. Jennifer, fifth message. Crying now. Call me, please. I need to talk to someone and you're the only one who... Just call me. Jennifer, sixth message. I'm coming over. We need to talk in person. I checked the timestamp on that last message, 15 minutes ago. I walked to the front window and looked out. Jennifer's car was parked across the street, engine off. She was sitting in the driver's seat, staring at the house. Even from this distance, I could see her shoulders shaking. Part of me, the part that had loved her for 15 years, wanted to go out there, wanted to comfort her, tell her it would be okay, help her figure out what to do about Trevor. But a bigger part, the part that had spent the last week documenting her betrayal, stayed inside. After 10 minutes, she started her car and drove away. I went upstairs to my office and opened my laptop. Time to update the timeline. Phase 3. Social consequences. Accelerated. Trevor confronted at house. Defensive. Desperate. Jennifer receiving information about Trevor's pattern. First cracks appearing in their relationship. Trevor threatening to reveal secrets about me. Note, investigate what he thinks he knows. Jennifer questioning Trevor's honesty. Next steps. Allow information to settle. Wait for Jennifer to contact Trevor's ex-wife directly. Document any new communications. Prepare for Monday's court filing. I was about to close the laptop when an email arrived. Lisa Chen, the financial forensics investigator I'd contacted. Mr. Foster, I reviewed the preliminary information you sent. This case has several interesting elements. I'm available Monday afternoon if you'd like to discuss. My rate is $400 hour for investigation and analysis, $600 hour for court testimony if needed. Let me know if you'd like to proceed. I replied immediately, confirming Monday at 2 p.m. Then I opened a new browser window and searched for information about Sarah, my first wife. What could Jennifer have told Trevor? What could he possibly use against me? I found our divorce records. Public information, nothing sealed, irreconcilable differences, standard no-fault divorce. Asset split had been simple since we'd barely accumulated anything in 18 months. No children, no property, just 2 people who'd realized they'd made a mistake. But what had happened during the marriage, before the divorce, the fights, the accusations she'd made, the things I'd said in anger. I'd been young, immature, too focused on my career. Sarah had accused me of being emotionally unavailable, of caring more about work than her. We'd fought about it constantly. In the end, she'd left, and I'd let her go without much of a fight. Was that what Trevor was referring to? The same pattern Jennifer was now accusing me of. I closed the laptop, suddenly exhausted. Tomorrow was Monday. Court filings, attorney meetings, the beginning of the actual legal battle. I needed to be sharp, focused. But tonight, sitting in my empty house with the ghosts of 2 failed marriages haunting me, I let myself feel it. All the anger, the betrayal, the fear that maybe Jennifer was right, maybe I was the problem. Maybe I'd driven her away with the same cold distance that had destroyed my first marriage. Then I thought about the fake house sale, the stolen money, Trevor Halston and his pattern of exploitation, the 8 months of lies while I'd been working to support us, and I remembered. I wasn't the villain here. I was just someone who'd finally decided to stop being the victim. Monday morning arrived with unseasonable cold. I dressed carefully. Charcoal suit, white shirt, burgundy tie. The kind of outfit that said, competent professional, without trying too hard. Catherine had told me appearance mattered, even for preliminary hearings. The Westchester County Courthouse was an imposing stone building from the 1920s, all columns and marble steps. I met Catherine in the lobby at 8:30 a.m. She was carrying 2 briefcases and looked like she'd been awake for hours. Paul Whitmore filed at 8:01 this morning, she said without preamble. I have the documents. They're claiming financial misconduct, emotional manipulation, and, this is new, they're requesting a restraining order. A restraining order? Based on what? Based on Trevor Halston's statement that you threatened him at your home. He claims you said, and I quote, I want both of you to understand that actions have real, permanent results. He's characterizing it as a veiled threat. I felt my jaw tighten. That's not what I meant. I was talking about legal consequences. I know that. You know that. But Whitmore's going to argue it could be interpreted as threatening physical harm. She guided me toward a bench away from the main flow of traffic. This is exactly what I warned you about. Any interaction you have with them can and will be spun to make you look dangerous. What do? We fight it. I've already prepared a response. We're going to argue that you were on your own property, Trevor came to you uninvited, and your statement was clearly about legal and financial consequences, not physical threats. She pulled out a document. But David, you need to understand. This changes things. If they get a temporary restraining order, even for a few days, it creates a narrative. Judges remember that stuff. So they're trying to paint me as the aggressor. Exactly. Shift the focus from Jennifer's financial misconduct to your supposedly threatening behavior. It's a smart move, actually. Whitmore knows he doesn't have much to work with on the actual divorce issues, so he's creating a new battlefield. The courtroom was smaller than I'd expected, more like a conference room with a judge's bench. Paul Whitmore was already there, a tall man in his 50s with silver hair and an expensive suit. Next to him sat Jennifer, wearing a conservative blue dress, her eyes red-rimmed. She looked at me once, quickly, then looked away. Judge Margaret Peterson entered at 9:00 a.m. exactly. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe early 50s, with no-nonsense energy. All right, counselors, let's get through this efficiently. Mr. Whitmore, you filed this morning. Walk me through it. Paul Whitmore stood. Your Honor, my client Jennifer Foster is seeking dissolution of her marriage to David Foster. She's also requesting a temporary restraining order based on concerning behavior from the respondent, including threatening statements made to her partner, Trevor Halston. Ms. Reeves? Catherine stood. Your Honor, the allegations are without merit. Mr. Foster has engaged in no threatening behavior. He made a factual statement about legal consequences while standing on his own property after Mr. Halston arrived uninvited. This is a transparent attempt to deflect from Ms. Foster's documented financial misconduct. Judge Peterson looked at Jennifer. Ms. Foster, did your husband ever threaten you directly? Jennifer hesitated. Not exactly, but his behavior has been... He won't communicate with me. He's investigating my personal life. He's made me feel unsafe. Feeling unsafe and being unsafe are different things. Has he contacted you against your wishes, followed you, shown up at your workplace? No, Your Honor. Has he damaged your property or made any explicit threats? No, but then I'm denying the restraining order request. Mr. Foster has every right not to communicate with you during divorce proceedings. That's what attorneys are for. She turned to Catherine. However, Ms. Reeves, I'm going to order both parties to maintain distance. No contact except through counsel, no visits to each other's residences, no communication whatsoever. Clear? Crystal clear, Your Honor. Judge Peterson looked at her notes. Now, regarding the financial issues. Ms. Reeves, you filed a motion for full financial disclosure? Yes, Your Honor. We have evidence that Ms. Foster transferred significant marital assets to a third party without her husband's knowledge or consent. We're requesting complete accounting of all financial transactions over the past 3 years. Mr. Whitmore? Your Honor, the $50,000 in question was transferred as a legitimate investment. Ms. Foster had power of attorney to manage household finances. Catherine didn't wait to be asked. The power of attorney specifically excludes large transfers and investments, Your Honor. We have the original document right here. Ms. Foster exceeded her authority. Judge Peterson held out her hand. Catherine passed her the POA document. The judge read for a moment, then looked at Paul Whitmore. Mr. Whitmore, this is pretty clear. Routine household management doesn't include $50,000 investments. We're prepared to argue that my client acted in good faith based on her understanding of the document. Good faith doesn't excuse exceeding authority. I'm ordering full financial disclosure from both parties, 3 years back, within 30 days, and I'm freezing all major financial transactions pending resolution. Neither party can sell property, make large withdrawals, or transfer significant assets without court approval. Understood? Both attorneys confirmed. Good. We'll reconvene in 30 days for a status conference. In the meantime, play nice. Judge Peterson gathered her papers and left. In the hallway outside, Catherine pulled me aside. That went well. The restraining order denial is huge. It undermines their whole dangerous husband narrative. And the asset freeze protects you from any more unauthorized transfers. What about the house? Status quo for now. You can both continue living there or make arrangements, but neither can force the other out, and it can't be sold without agreement or court order. Across the hall, I could see Paul Whitmore talking intently with Jennifer. She was shaking her head, looking distressed. What happens now? I asked. Now we dig. We have 30 days to compile everything, which means they do too. They're going to be looking for any financial irregularity on your part, anything they can use to counter our claims. You need to make sure your records are spotless. They are. Are you sure? Because this is the time to tell me if there's anything at all, that could be embarrassing or problematic. Better I hear it from you than from Paul Whitmore in court. I thought about Trevor's veiled threat regarding my first marriage. My first wife, Sarah. We divorced when I was 26. It was contentious. She made some accusations during the proceedings. Catherine's expression sharpened. What kind of accusations? That I was emotionally abusive. That I withheld affection as punishment. That I was controlling about finances. I met her eyes. None of it was true. We were young. The marriage was a mistake. She was angry. The judge didn't give her allegations any weight. But they're on record. They're on record. Catherine was quiet for a moment. Okay, that's something they could try to use. Pattern of behavior kind of argument. But it was 20 years ago, and no judge substantiated the claims. We can handle it if it comes up. What should I do? Nothing. Don't contact Sarah. Don't try to get ahead of it. If Whitmore brings it up, we'll deal with it then. In the meantime, focus on your financial documentation. I want every bank statement, every investment record, every receipt over $500, everything. After Catherine left, I stood in the courthouse lobby for a moment, watching lawyers and clients stream past. Jennifer emerged from one of the side corridors, Paul Whitmore beside her. She saw me, stopped. For a few seconds, we just looked at each other across the marble floor. I tried to read her expression. Anger, sadness, regret. But her face was carefully neutral, giving nothing away. Then Paul Whitmore touched her arm, said something, and they walked toward the exit. I checked my phone. 10:47 a.m. My meeting with Lisa Chen, the financial investigator, was at 2 Batonmao p.m. That gave me time to grab lunch and review the documents I'd brought. I drove to a diner near the courthouse and ordered coffee and a sandwich I barely touched. Instead, I pulled out my laptop and started organizing files. The $50,000 to Trevor was clear-cut. I had the transfer records, the LLC documents, the connection between the dates. But what else had Jennifer moved? What other financial decisions had she made without telling me? I pulled up our joint credit card statements and started going through them line by line. Most charges were routine, groceries, gas, household expenses, but there were irregularities. A charge to a hotel in Manhattan for $840 in June, another to a restaurant I'd never been to for $423 in July, a payment to a photography studio in August for $200. I screenshotted each one, made notes about the dates and amounts. Individually, they seemed small. Together, they formed a pattern of Jennifer using marital funds for her relationship with Trevor. My phone buzzed. Email from Richard Kim. Following up on Trevor Halston's business activities. Found something you need to see. He's currently under investigation by the NY State Department of Real Estate for licensing violations. Apparently, he's been operating as a broker while his license was suspended for failure to complete continuing education requirements. That makes every commission he's earned in the past 6 months technically illegal. Thought you'd want to know. I forwarded the email to Catherine immediately, then sat back and absorbed the information. Trevor wasn't just a failed investor and a con artist. He was operating illegally. Every property deal he'd touched was potentially compromised. If Jennifer had been involved in any of those deals, she could be implicated too. I opened a new document and started mapping out Trevor's business operations. The LLC formation in January, the $50,000 investment from Jennifer in August, the failed property flips, and now the illegal broker activities. This wasn't just about divorce anymore. This was about building a comprehensive case that Jennifer had been deceived, manipulated, and drawn into potentially illegal activities by Trevor Halston. At 1:45 p.m., I drove to Lisa Chen's office, a converted brownstone in Rye. The receptionist, a young man with meticulous attention to detail, showed me to a conference room. Lisa Chen entered at exactly 2:00 p.m. She was in her early 40s, dressed in a sharp gray pantsuit, carrying a tablet and a leather portfolio. "Mr. Foster." Her handshake was firm. "I've reviewed the materials you sent. This case has several interesting elements. Before we proceed, I need to clarify my role. I'm a forensic investigator, not a private detective. I analyze financial records, trace money movements, identify patterns. I don't follow people around or dig through trash. Clear?" "Clear." "Good. Now tell me what you want to know." I laid out the situation. Jennifer's affair, the attempted house sale, the $50,000 transferred to Trevor, the pattern of smaller charges. Lisa took notes on her tablet, occasionally asking clarifying questions. "Here's what I can do," she said when I finished. "First, I'll analyze all the financial records you have access to. Joint accounts, credit cards, any investment accounts. I'll identify every irregular transaction, categorize them, build a timeline. Second, if your attorney can subpoena Jennifer's personal accounts, I can analyze those too. Third, I can look at Trevor Halston's business records and determine if any of the money from your wife went to pay personal expenses versus legitimate business costs. How long will that take? For the preliminary analysis? 2 weeks. For a comprehensive report suitable for court? 4 to 6 weeks, depending on how much data there is." She quoted her rates: $400 per hour for investigation, with an estimated 50 to 70 hours of work. It would cost somewhere between $20,000 and $30,000. A significant investment, but if it protected my assets and exposed Jennifer's misconduct, it would be worth it. "Do it," I said. Lisa nodded. "I'll need access to everything. Bank accounts, credit cards, investment statements. If you can get your attorney to send me the official records, that's better. Maintains chain of custody for court purposes. I'll have Catherine send everything over." "One more thing, Mr. Foster. In my experience, cases like this often reveal more than clients expect. You might find out things you'd rather not know, not just about your wife's relationship, but about financial decisions, spending habits, things that happened years ago. Are you prepared for that?" I thought about it. Was I prepared to know everything? Every lie, every deception, every small betrayal that had led to this moment? "Yes," I said. "I want to know all of it." After the meeting with Lisa, I drove home through rush hour traffic, my mind churning through the day's events. The judge's denial of the restraining order was a win, but Whitmore would look for other angles. The financial investigation would take weeks, and in the meantime, I was living in limbo. When I pulled into my driveway, I saw a package on the front porch. No delivery markings, just a plain brown box with my name written in black marker. I carried it inside, set it on the kitchen table, and examined it carefully. No return address, no postage, no indication of who'd left it or when. I opened it slowly. Inside was a leather-bound notebook and a handwritten letter. "David, this belonged to Trevor. I found it in his stuff after we separated, kept it in case I ever needed evidence for something. Now I'm giving it to you. Maybe it'll help." "Rebecca," I opened the notebook. Page after page of Trevor's handwriting, documenting his business strategies. But as I read, I realized it wasn't business strategies at all. It was a playbook. January 15th, met Jay at conference. Successful, smart, married to guy who travels, potential. January 22nd, coffee with Jay. She's unhappy, feels neglected. Mentioned husband's work schedule keeps him away. Opening there. February 3rd, dinner with Jay. Separate cars, public place. Discussed her work, her ambitions. Made sure to listen, really listen. They always respond to that. February 14th, sent flowers to her office. Nothing too romantic, just thinking of you? Keep it ambiguous for now. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. This wasn't a love story, it was a calculated seduction. I kept reading. March 8th, Jay asked about my business, mentioned cash flow problems, but kept it vague. Don't push too hard yet. March 20th, first time at her place. Husband traveling? She's vulnerable, lonely. perfect timing. April 2. Discussed my property investment plans. She's interested, asking good questions. She has money, just need to be patient. May 10th. Mentioned Marcus pulling out of the LLC. Let her see me stressed about it. She offered to help. Said no at first, make her insist. May 17th. She insists on investing. $50,000. Told her it's a loan, but we both know she won't ask for it back. They never do. Page after page of manipulation, calculation, predatory behavior. Trevor had systematically identified Jennifer's vulnerabilities and exploited them. The lonely wife, the inattentive husband, the woman who wanted to feel valued and seen. And Jennifer had walked right into it. The notebook included notes on other women too, names I didn't recognize, similar patterns of behavior. Trevor Halston wasn't just a con artist. He was a professional. I photographed every page of the notebook, uploaded the images to secure cloud storage, then called Catherine Reeves. I have something you need to see, I said. Tonight, if possible. How important? Game changer important. She gave me her home address in Larchmont. I drove there immediately, the notebook on the passenger seat next to me like evidence in a crime. Catherine's house was a modern renovation tucked into an old neighborhood. She answered the door in jeans and a sweater, reading glasses perched on her head. This better be good, she said. I was planning a quiet evening with bad television and good wine. I handed her the notebook. Trevor Halston's journal. Documented seduction of my wife, complete with strategies and timing. Catherine opened it, started reading. Her expression went from curious to shocked to coldly professional. She read in silence for 10 minutes, occasionally flipping back to reread sections. Finally, she looked up. Where did you get this? Trevor's ex-wife. She sent it to me. This is... Catherine shook her head. This is prosecutable. Not just civil liability, but potentially criminal fraud. He documented intent to deceive, intent to manipulate for financial gain. Can we use it? Hell yes, we can use it. But we need to be careful. Chain of custody, authentication, making sure it can't be dismissed as fabricated. She pulled out her phone. I'm calling the investigator I use for document verification. If this is authentic, and I think it is, it's the nail in Paul Whitmore's coffin. What about Jennifer? Catherine looked at me carefully. David, this notebook proves your wife was manipulated, targeted and deceived by someone who made a career out of exploiting women. That actually helps her case, makes her look like a victim rather than a willing participant in financial misconduct. I know. So why do you look like you just lost something? I sat down on her front steps, suddenly exhausted. Because I wanted her to be the villain. I wanted this to be simple. She betrayed me. She deserves punishment. End of story. But this... I gestured at the notebook. This makes it complicated. Catherine sat down next to me. Revenge is always complicated. That's why it's usually a terrible idea. I'm not looking for revenge. Aren't you? Because from where I'm sitting, you've been building a case not just to protect yourself, but to destroy your wife. And now you're finding out she was a victim too, and that's messing with your narrative. I didn't answer. David, let me tell you something I've learned in 23 years of divorce work. There are rarely pure villains. Mostly it's just people making bad choices, hurting each other, getting tangled up in messes they never intended to create. Jennifer made terrible decisions. She lied to you, betrayed your trust, moved your money, but she was also targeted by a predator who knew exactly how to manipulate her. That doesn't excuse what she did. No, it doesn't, but it might change how you think about consequences. What do you actually want here? Do you want to punish her, humiliate her, or do you want to protect yourself and move on? I stood up, looked out at Catherine's quiet street. I want her to understand what she did. I want her to face real consequences, not just walk away with half of everything while I'm left picking up the pieces. Then we'll make sure that happens. This notebook gives us massive leverage. We can negotiate a settlement where you keep the house, get reimbursed for the money she transferred, and come out ahead financially. We can make sure Trevor Halston faces consequences for his fraud. What we can't do is make Jennifer hurt the way you hurt. That's not how the system works. Maybe the system's wrong. Catherine stood, handed me back the notebook. Maybe it is, but it's the one we've got. Take this home, keep it somewhere safe. I'll have my document specialist verify it tomorrow. If it's authentic, and I'm 99% sure it is, we're going to use it to end this case on your terms. I drove home through empty streets, the notebook on the seat next to me. Catherine was right. I'd been building toward something, not just protection, but destruction. I'd wanted Jennifer to suffer the way I'd suffered, but now I had evidence that she'd been manipulated, deceived, targeted by someone who'd done this before and would do it again. That should have made me feel victorious. Instead, it just made me feel tired. At home, I locked the notebook in my safe, then poured a glass of whiskey and sat in the dark living room. Tomorrow, I'd call Catherine, start the process of leveraging this new evidence. Tomorrow, I'd figure out how to use Trevor's own words against him. Tonight, I just sat with the uncomfortable realization that revenge was messier than I'd expected, and that knowing the truth didn't actually make anything simpler. 3 weeks later, I sat in a conference room in Catherine's office, waiting for Jennifer's deposition to begin. The room was designed for exactly this kind of confrontation: long table, uncomfortable chairs, harsh lighting that made everyone look slightly ill. Jennifer arrived at 9:15 a.m. with Paul Whitmore and a young associate carrying boxes of documents. She looked thinner than I remembered, worn down by weeks of legal maneuvering. She didn't look at me when she entered, just took her seat across the table and stared at her hands. Catherine had spent the past 3 weeks building our case. Lisa Chen had completed her financial analysis, documenting not just the $50,000 to Trevor, but another $37,000 in smaller transfers and charges related to Jennifer's affair. The total misappropriation, $87,000 of marital funds. More importantly, Catherine had Rebecca Halston's testimony ready to go. Trevor's ex-wife had agreed to provide a detailed statement about his pattern of financial manipulation, including similarities to what had happened with Jennifer. And then there was the notebook. Catherine's document specialist had verified it was authentic, and Trevor's handwriting, Trevor's notebook, Trevor's documented strategy for seducing and exploiting my wife. Paul Whitmore knew about all of it. Catherine had sent him copies of everything in discovery, as required. I'd expected him to fold, to push for settlement. Instead, he doubled down, claiming the notebook was illegally obtained and inadmissible. Today's deposition was supposed to establish Jennifer's knowledge and intent regarding the financial transfers. But I suspected Paul had a different strategy in mind. The court reporter, a middle-aged woman with efficient keystrokes, got set up. Catherine laid out her documents. Paul Whitmore made small talk about weather and traffic, and Jennifer just sat there, looking smaller and more fragile every minute. "Let's begin," Catherine said. "Mrs. Foster, please state your full name for the record." "Jennifer Marie Foster." "And you understand you're under oath?" "I do." Catherine pulled out the first document, bank statements showing the $50,000 transfer. "Mrs. Foster, do you recognize this transaction?" Jennifer looked at the paper. "Yes." "Can you explain the purpose of this transfer?" "It was an investment. Trevor, Mr. Halston, had a business opportunity. I believed it was a sound investment that would benefit both of us." "Both of you meaning you and Mr. Halston?" "Yes." "Not you and your husband?" Jennifer's voice was barely audible. "No." "Did you discuss this investment with your husband before making the transfer?" "No." "Did you inform him about it afterward?" "No." Catherine pulled out another document. "Did you believe you had authority to make this transfer under the power of attorney your husband had granted you?" Paul Whitmore interrupted. "Don't answer that. We're not here to provide legal interpretation." Catherine didn't miss a beat. "Mrs. Foster, did you read the power of attorney document before making the transfer?" I glanced at it when we first signed it." "Did Mr. Halston advise you that the transfer was permissible under the power of attorney?" Jennifer looked at Paul Whitmore, who gave a tiny shake of his head. "I don't recall." "You don't recall whether your boyfriend told you it was legal to transfer $50,000 of your husband's money to his business account?" "Objection," Paul said, argumentative. "I'll rephrase. Mrs. Foster, did Mr. Halston discuss the legal implications of the transfer with you?" "He said I had authority to manage our finances. That's all." Catherine made a note. "Let's talk about the relationship itself. When did your romantic involvement with Mr. Halston begin?" "January, mid-January." "And your husband was traveling frequently for work at that time?" "Yes." "How did you meet Mr. Halston?" "At a consulting conference. We were both attending sessions on commercial property development." "Did Mr. Halston know you were married when you met?" Jennifer hesitated. "Yes." "Did he know your husband traveled frequently?" Another hesitation. "It came up in conversation." "Who brought it up?" "I don't remember." Catherine pulled out a photocopy of Trevor's notebook, opened to the first page. "Mrs. Foster, have you ever seen this notebook before?" Jennifer's face went pale. "Where did you get that?" "Please answer the question. Have you seen it?" "No, I mean, maybe. Trevor kept notebooks for his business. I don't know if that's one of them." "This is Mr. Halston's handwriting. It looks like it." Catherine read aloud. "January 15th. Met Jay at conference. Successful, smart, married to guy who travels, potential. She looked up. Mrs. Foster, does this entry refer to you? Paul Whitmore stood. We're not authenticating documents during deposition. If you want to introduce that notebook, do it in court. I'm simply asking if the witness recognizes the handwriting and whether this entry appears to refer to her. Jennifer's voice was shaking now. I don't know. Maybe, I don't. Can we take a break? We've been going for 15 minutes, Mrs. Foster. Let's continue. Catherine flipped forward. March 20th. First time at her place. Husband traveling. She's vulnerable, lonely. Perfect timing. She looked up again. Did Mr. Halston come to your home in late March? Yes, but while your husband was traveling? Yes. Did you feel vulnerable and lonely at that time? Paul tried to interrupt, but Jennifer was already answering. Yes, I felt neglected. David was always gone. I felt invisible in my own marriage. And Mr. Halston made you feel visible? Yes. Catherine's voice softened. Mrs. Foster, I need to ask you something difficult. Did you know that Mr. Halston had been in multiple relationships before you where he received financial support from his partners? Jennifer shook her head. No. He told me about his divorce, but he said it was amicable. Did you know his real estate license had been suspended? What? No. That's not... He showed me his license. It had been suspended for 6 months due to continuing education violations. Every commission he earned during that time was technically illegal. Jennifer looked at Paul Whitmore, then back at Catherine. I didn't know that. Did you know he kept a detailed journal documenting how he targeted women for financial exploitation? That's not... Jennifer's voice broke. He loved me. He said we were building a future together. Catherine pulled out another document. This is a statement from Rebecca Halston, Mr. Halston's ex-wife. She details a pattern of behavior identical to what happened with you. Strategic seduction, financial manipulation, documented deception. She's willing to testify that Trevor Halston is, in her words, a professional con artist who preys on lonely women with money. Jennifer was crying now, silent tears running down her face. Paul Whitmore put his hand on her arm. We're taking a break. My client needs a moment. We've only been... Now, Ms. Reeves. We're taking a break now. Catherine nodded. 15 minutes. Jennifer practically ran from the room, Paul Whitmore following. His young associate gathered papers and hurried after them. I sat there in the sudden silence, feeling something twist in my chest. That was brutal, I said. Catherine was organizing her documents, her expression neutral. That was necessary. Jennifer needed to understand the full scope of what happened to her, and we needed it on the record. She didn't know about any of it. No, she didn't, which actually helps us. The more we can establish that she was manipulated and deceived, the more we can argue her financial decisions weren't willful misconduct, but the result of fraud perpetrated against her. So we're helping her now? Catherine looked at me directly. We're building a case that gets you what you want. The house, financial compensation, protection of your assets. The fact that it also reveals your wife was victimized doesn't change our strategy. If anything, it strengthens it. How? Because now we're not just fighting Jennifer, we're fighting Trevor Halston, and that's a fight we can win decisively. She pulled out her phone. I'm going to recommend to Paul that they drop all counterclaims and negotiate settlement. Jennifer gets out of this with minimal damage, you get significant compensation and the house, and Trevor faces the consequences of his fraud. Everyone wins except the actual bad guy. And if they don't accept? Then we go to trial, and I parade Rebecca Halston, Lisa Chen's financial analysis, and Trevor's notebook in front of a judge who'll see exactly what happened here. Paul Whitmore's smart enough to know how that would go. Through the conference room door, I could hear voices, Jennifer crying, Paul speaking in low, urgent tones. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was clear. He was trying to manage a client who just realized her entire world was built on lies. My phone buzzed. Text from Richard Kim. Got some news on Trevor. He filed for bankruptcy this morning. Chapter 7. Total liquidation. Interesting timing. I showed the text to Catherine. She read it and smiled grimly. He's trying to protect whatever assets he has left, but bankruptcy won't shield him from fraud charges, and it won't prevent Jennifer from suing him for recovery of her money. She made a note. This actually helps us. Shows consciousness of guilt. The 15 minutes stretched to 25 before Paul Whitmore returned alone. He sat down heavily, looking like he'd aged a decade. My client needs to stop for today. We'll resume tomorrow. We've barely started, Catherine said. My client is not in a condition to continue. We'll resume tomorrow at the same time, or you can ask the judge for an order compelling her to sit here while she has a breakdown. Your choice. Catherine considered, then nodded. Tomorrow at 9. But Paul, let me save us all some time. You've seen the evidence. You know what we have. Your client was manipulated and defrauded. The question is whether you want this to play out in open court or if you want to negotiate a settlement that protects Jennifer from further damage. Paul was quiet for a moment. What are you proposing? David keeps the house, free and clear. Jennifer walks away with her personal assets, her car, her retirement accounts. We split other marital assets 50-50, minus the $87,000 she transferred to Trevor, which gets deducted from her share. We file a civil suit against Trevor for fraud and recovery of funds. Jennifer cooperates with that suit, and in return, we don't argue she was a willing participant in his schemes. You want her to testify against him? I want her to tell the truth about what happened. If that means testifying against Trevor, so be it. Paul stood. I'll discuss it with my client, but I'm going to recommend she accept. This situation is... He shook his head. I've been practicing for 28 years. I've never seen anything quite like this. After he left, Catherine and I sat in the conference room, the stack of evidence between us. What happens now? I asked. Now we wait. Either Paul convinces Jennifer to settle, or we go to trial and win decisively. Either way, you're getting what you wanted. Am I? Catherine studied me. What do you mean? I gestured at the documents, the notebook, all the evidence we'd compiled. I wanted Jennifer to face consequences. I wanted her to understand what she'd done, to lose something important, and now she's sitting in some other room crying because she just found out her boyfriend was using her the whole time. She's already lost everything that mattered to her. So you're satisfied? I don't know. I thought I would be. I thought seeing her broken would make me feel better, but it just feels... I trailed off. Empty? Yeah. Catherine gathered her papers. That's the thing about revenge, David. It never feels the way you think it will. You imagine this moment of triumph, of vindication. But when you actually get there, you realize you've just spent months of your life focused on someone else's suffering, and that changes you. So what do? You take the settlement, you get your house, your money, your life back, and then you figure out how to move forward without letting this define you. She paused at the door. And maybe you let yourself feel sorry for Jennifer. Not because she deserves it necessarily, but because holding on to rage will hurt you more than it hurts her. After Catherine left, I sat alone in the conference room for a long time. Through the window, I could see white plains going about its business, cars honking, people walking, life continuing in all its ordinary complexity. My phone buzzed. Email from Lisa Chen with her final report attached. Subject line, Complete Financial Analysis, Foster v. Foster. I opened it but didn't read. I knew what it would say. Detailed documentation of every dollar Jennifer had moved, every charge she'd made for Trevor, every financial decision that had brought us to this point. Instead, I opened my notes app and looked at the plan I'd written 3 weeks ago. Phase 4, final resolution, planned, details to be determined, middle, must be legal, irreversible, and complete. Timeline. When maximum impact can be achieved, I'd never filled in the details. Never actually decided what final resolution would look like. I'd been so focused on gathering evidence, building the case, backing Jennifer into a corner that I'd never thought about what came after. Now I was here, and Jennifer was in pieces, and Trevor was filing bankruptcy, and I was sitting in an empty conference room wondering why victory felt so much like defeat. I deleted the note, all of it, the phases, the plans, the careful documentation of strategy. Then I called Catherine. Tell Paul we'll take the settlement, I said. Whatever terms protect me financially, I'll accept. I'm done fighting. David, are you sure? We haven't even heard their counteroffer yet. I'm sure. I just want this over. Catherine was quiet for a moment. All right. I'll reach out to Paul tomorrow morning. But David, I think you're making the right choice. I hung up and drove home through late afternoon traffic. The house looked different now. Not like a prize to be won, but just like a house. 4 walls, a roof, rooms that would echo with emptiness once Jennifer was gone. Inside, I poured a whiskey and sat in the kitchen where we'd had 1,000 ordinary conversations about ordinary things. Before Trevor, before the lies, before everything fell apart. My phone buzzed one more time. Text from an unknown number. This is Jennifer. I know I'm not supposed to contact you, but I need you to know something. I'm sorry. For all of it. You deserved better. I hope someday you can forgive me. I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to respond with rage, with all the hurt I'd been carrying. Part of me wanted to tell her exactly how much damage she'd caused, how many ways she'd destroyed our life together. Instead, I typed back, I hope you find what you're looking for. Just don't lose yourself finding it. Then I blocked the number and finished my whiskey in the quiet house. The settlement negotiations took another week. Paul Whitmore pushed back on some terms, but his heart wasn't in it. He knew Catherine had him beaten. In the end, the agreement looked exactly like Catherine had proposed. I kept the house, Jennifer walked away with her personal assets and retirement accounts, and we split everything else 50-50 minus the $87,000 she'd transferred to Trevor. The real victory, though, was the civil suit against Trevor Halston. Jennifer agreed to cooperate fully, providing testimony and documentation about his fraud. Rebecca Halston joined as a co-plaintiff. Together, they built a case that would follow Trevor for years. I sat in Catherine's office on a gray Tuesday afternoon, signing the final paperwork. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Like I should feel something more than I do." "That's normal. Divorce is strange that way. You spend months building toward this moment, and then when it arrives, it's just paperwork." I signed the last document, dated it, pushed the stack back across the desk. What happens to Trevor? Best case for him. He settles the civil suit for whatever he can scrape together, which won't be much given the bankruptcy. Worst case, criminal fraud charges if the DA decides to pursue it. Either way, his real estate career is over and his reputation is destroyed. And Jennifer? Catherine's expression softened. Jennifer starts over. She's already moved out of the house, went back to her parents' place in Connecticut. I heard she took a leave of absence from work. She'll need time to process everything. Does she know about Trevor's bankruptcy? She does. Paul told her last week. Apparently she took it hard. Another betrayal on top of everything else. I thought about Jennifer, alone at her parents' house, trying to make sense of how her life had fallen apart so completely. Part of me, the part that had loved her for 15 years, wanted to reach out to make sure she was okay, but a bigger part knew that would be a mistake. We were done. The relationship was over. Anything more would just prolong the pain. "There's one more thing," Catherine said, pulling out a folder. "The investigation into Trevor turned up something interesting. Remember how he showed Jennifer a real estate license? It was fake. Poorly done fake, actually. Wrong format, invalid license number. Anyone with basic knowledge would have caught it immediately." "So he was never licensed?" "He was licensed, but it expired 7 years ago. He's been operating illegally this entire time, not just the past 6 months." "How did he get away with it?" "He worked through other brokers, mostly. Partnered on deals where they held the license and he was just a consultant or finder, but on the deals he tried to do through his own LLC, all illegal." I absorbed that. "So every property he touched?" "Every transaction, every commission, every contract, all potentially void or voidable, which means the people who worked with him could have grounds to sue. This could turn into a much bigger scandal than just our case." "Does Jennifer know?" "Not yet, but she will. It'll come out during the civil case discovery." Catherine closed the folder. "David, I want you to understand something. What we did here, exposing Trevor's fraud, building this case, it probably saved other women from going through what Jennifer and Rebecca went through. This man was a predator, and now he's facing real consequences. That should feel good. Should it?" I looked out the window at the parking lot below. I spent weeks planning this, gathering evidence, building strategies, thinking about ways to make Jennifer pay for what she did, and yeah, part of that was about exposing Trevor, but mostly it was about hurting her. And now that you've succeeded, now I just feel tired and sad, and like I spent so much energy on revenge that I forgot to think about what comes after. Catherine stood, walked around the desk, and sat in the chair next to me. "You know what I tell clients in your position? The best revenge is building a good life, not destroying someone else's life, but actually creating something better for yourself. That's not very satisfying. No, it's not. But it's the only thing that actually works. You can spend the rest of your life focused on what Jennifer did to you, or you can start figuring out who you want to be without her." I left Catherine's office and drove around aimlessly for a while, not ready to go home to the empty house. I ended up at a park I'd never been to, sitting on a bench watching kids play soccer while their parents shouted encouragement from the sidelines. Normal life. Ordinary life. The kind of life I'd had before everything imploded. My phone buzzed. Email from Richard Kim. Final report on Trevor Halston attached. Everything you asked for, and more. Invoice included. "Been a pleasure working with you, Davy. Hope you find some peace with all this." I didn't open the attachment. I'd seen enough reports, enough evidence, enough documentation of betrayal and manipulation. Whatever else Richard had found, it didn't matter anymore. Instead, I texted back, "Thanks for everything. Send the invoice to Catherine Reeves. She'll make sure you get paid. Then I opened my email and started composing messages to people I hadn't talked to in months. Old friends I'd neglected while I was traveling, college buddies I'd lost touch with, cousins I'd meant to visit but never found time for. I didn't tell them about the divorce. Just reached out, said hello, asked how they were doing. Small steps toward rebuilding a life that wasn't defined by what Jennifer had done. At home that evening, I walked through the rooms, really seeing them for the first time in weeks. The house felt different now, not like Jennifer's house or our house, just like space I occupied. I could stay here or sell it, fill it with new furniture, or keep everything the same. The choice was mine. I poured a whiskey and stood in the kitchen, remembering the night Jennifer had called me in Dubai. The night everything started. If I could go back to that moment, knowing everything I knew now, what would I do differently? Would I still have stayed calm? Still have gathered evidence and built a case? Or would I have just let her go, signed whatever papers she wanted, and moved on with my life? I honestly didn't know. My phone buzzed. Text from Drew Bennett. Heard the settlement went through. Congratulations. Want to grab dinner sometime this week? I texted back. Tomorrow night? That Italian place we used to go to? Perfect. 7 p.m. My treat. The next evening, I met Drew at Marcello's, a family-run Italian restaurant we'd been going to since college. The owner, Tony, greeted me at the door with a hug and immediately started asking about Jennifer before realizing something was wrong. Ah, he said, understanding. Table for one? 2. I'm meeting a friend. Drew arrived 10 minutes later, and we settled into our usual booth in the back corner. He ordered wine, I stuck with water. We made small talk about his work, his family, the upcoming holidays. Finally, he said, So, it's done? It's done. Paper signed, settlement finalized, Jennifer's moved out. How are you handling it? I thought about that. I don't know. Some days I'm fine. Some days I'm angry all over again. Some days I just feel empty. That's normal. Catherine said the same thing. Drew smiled. Catherine Reeves is smart. You should listen to her. I am, or I'm trying to. I traced patterns on the condensation of my water glass. Drew, can I ask you something? As a lawyer? Always. Did I do the right thing? Building that case, exposing Trevor, pushing Jennifer into a corner where she had to face what happened. Drew was quiet for a moment. Legally, yes. You protected your assets, documented misconduct, secured a favorable settlement. Everything you did was above board and strategically sound. But morally, that's a harder question. He leaned back. You didn't break any laws, you didn't lie or cheat. You used the system exactly as it's designed to be used. But you also spent weeks focused on destroying someone you once loved. So, morally, I think you're going to have to make peace with that on your own. Our food arrived. Lasagna for Drew, chicken parm for me. We ate in silence for a while. I saw the notebook, Drew said finally. The one Trevor kept. Catherine showed it to me. What did you think? I think Jennifer was lucky you found it. If Trevor had destroyed it, she might never have known the truth about who he was. So I did her a favor? In a way. You exposed a con artist who would have continued using her until she had nothing left. That's not nothing. I pushed food around on my plate. She texted me, after the deposition, said she was sorry. What did you say back? I told her I hoped she found what she was looking for. Drew smiled. That's very diplomatic. It's the truth. I hope she does find it. Real happiness, real partnership, whatever. Just not with someone who's going to use her. You still care about her? Of course I do. 15 years doesn't just disappear because someone betrays you. I set down my fork. But caring about someone and wanting them in your life are different things. I care enough to hope she's okay. I don't care enough to be part of making sure she is. That's healthy, actually. A lot of people can't separate those things. We finished dinner and ordered coffee. Tony brought tiramisu on the house, which Drew and I split while catching up on everything else. His kids, his latest case, my plans for the house. Are you going to stay there? Drew asked. I don't know. It's a lot of house for one person. But it's paid off now, thanks to the settlement. No mortgage, no obligations. I could sell it and buy something smaller, or I could stay and fill it with new memories. What do you want to do? I thought about the empty rooms, the spaces Jennifer used to occupy. I want to stop making decisions based on what happened and start making them based on what I want to happen. Does that make sense? Perfect sense. We paid the bill. Drew insisted on covering it despite my protests, and walked out into the November cold. The parking lot was nearly empty, just our cars and a few others. David, Drew said as we reached my truck, For what it's worth, I think you handled this whole situation better than most people would have. You didn't lose your temper, didn't do anything stupid, didn't let emotion override logic. That takes discipline. Or emotional unavailability? That's what Jennifer always said. I was too logical, too controlled. Maybe. Or maybe you're just someone who processes things internally instead of externally. There's nothing wrong with that. He clapped me on the shoulder. Take care of yourself, and call me if you need anything. Not lawyer stuff, just friend stuff. I will, thanks, Drew. I drove home through quiet streets, thinking about what Drew had said. Discipline versus emotional unavailability, logic versus coldness. Where was the line? Jennifer had accused me of being shut down, checked out, unreachable, and maybe she was right. Maybe I had been so focused on work, on travel, on the next contract and the next deal that I'd stopped being present in our marriage. But that didn't excuse what she'd done. Didn't justify the lies, the theft, the betrayal. Both things could be true at once. I could have been a distant husband, and Jennifer could have made terrible choices. Those facts didn't cancel each other out. At home, I poured one last whiskey and sat in the living room, surrounded by furniture we'd bought together, pictures I'd taken down, empty spaces where Jennifer's things used to be. The house was mine now, all mine. I'd fought for it, built a case for it, secured it in the settlement. So why did it feel so much like losing? My phone buzzed. Email from Lisa Chen with her final invoice. $28,400 for her forensic investigation, worth every penny. She'd given us the ammunition we needed to win. I paid it immediately, then closed my laptop. Tomorrow I'd start figuring out what came next. Tonight, I'd let myself feel the weight of it all, the victory, the loss, the strange emptiness of getting everything I'd fought for and realizing it wasn't enough. Outside, the November wind rattled the windows. Inside, I sat in the quiet house and tried to remember what normal felt like. 2 weeks after the settlement, I was working from home when my phone rang. Unknown number with a New York area code. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. David Foster? The voice was male, unfamiliar, tense. Who's this? My name is James Chen. I'm an attorney representing Trevor Halston. We need to talk. I sat up straighter. I don't have anything to say to Trevor's attorney. Just hear me out. 5 minutes, that's all I'm asking. A pause. My client is in serious trouble. The civil suit, the bankruptcy, the criminal investigation, it's destroying him. He wants to make things right. Make things right? He's a con artist who defrauded multiple women, including my ex-wife. There's no making that right. He's willing to provide testimony against himself, full admission of fraud, documentation of his methods, cooperation with authorities. In exchange, he's hoping you and the other plaintiffs will agree to a settlement that doesn't leave him completely destroyed. I almost laughed. Why would I do that? Because he has information you might want. About Jennifer. About things that happened during their relationship that you don't know about. Something cold settled in my chest. What kind of information? The kind that might change how you think about everything. Meet with him. One conversation. If you don't think it's worth your time, walk away. I should have said no. Should have hung up and called Catherine immediately. Instead, I heard myself say, where and when? Tomorrow, 2 p.m.? There's a coffee shop in Rye, corner of Purchase, and... I know the one. I'll be there. But if this is some kind of ambush or trick, I'll have the police there in minutes. It's not a trick. Trevor just wants to talk. The next afternoon, I arrived at the coffee shop 15 minutes early. I'd told Catherine where I was going, despite her strong objections. She'd wanted to come with me, but I'd refused. Whatever Trevor had to say, I wanted to hear it without attorneys present. The coffee shop was half empty, afternoon lull between lunch and dinner rushes. I ordered black coffee and took a table in the back corner where I could see the entrance. Trevor arrived at exactly 2 p.m., looking worse than I'd ever seen him. He'd lost weight, his expensive clothes hanging loose on his frame. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, and his hands shook slightly as he ordered coffee. He sat down across from me without asking permission. Thanks for coming, he said. Talk. He wrapped his hands around his coffee cup like he was trying to absorb its warmth. I'm not going to make excuses. Everything you found out about me, Rebecca, the fake license, the notebook, it's all true. I did those things. I manipulated Jennifer, took her money, lied to her about everything. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm done running from it. The bankruptcy, the lawsuits, the criminal investigation, I deserve all of it. But there's something Jennifer never told you, something she made me promise not to tell anyone. I waited. Trevor took a shaky breath. The baby, the one she told you about when she called you in Dubai. It wasn't mine. The coffee shop sounds. Espresso machine hissing, conversations murmuring, faded to white noise. What? She was never pregnant. She made it up because she thought it would make you react, make you angry enough to fight for her or give up completely. She wasn't sure which she wanted, but she wanted something from you besides that calm acceptance. I set down my coffee cup carefully. You're lying. I'm not. Ask her yourself. Or better yet, ask her doctor. She went to get a pregnancy test done 2 days after that call, came back negative. She'd made the whole thing up. Why would she do that? Trevor's voice was quiet. Because she was desperate. We'd been together for months, and you still didn't seem to care. You didn't fight for her, didn't rage, didn't even seem hurt. She thought if she told you about a baby, about me taking everything from you, you'd finally react like you gave a damn. I thought back to that phone call. Jennifer's voice, cold and calculated, telling me she was pregnant with Trevor's child. The cruelty in her tone, the satisfaction. She wanted me to hurt, I said slowly. She wanted you to feel something. Anything. Trevor rubbed his face. I told her it was crazy, that it would backfire. But she was convinced you'd either come home and fight for her, or you'd break down and she'd know you still loved her. Instead, you just said, okay, and hung up. So she lied about being pregnant to manipulate me. Yes. I sat back, processing. Why are you telling me this now? Because I owe you the truth, and because Jennifer deserves consequences for her lies too, not just me. Everyone thinks she's the victim in this, the poor wife who got seduced by a con artist. But she made choices. She lied. She tried to manipulate you, just like I manipulated her. You're trying to drag her down with you. I'm trying to tell the truth? Trevor's hands tightened around his cup. Look, I know I'm the bad guy here. I accept that. But Jennifer's not innocent. She knew what she was doing when she moved that money. She knew what she was doing when she tried to sell the house. She wasn't some naive victim. She was an active participant who got caught. I stood up. This conversation is over. Wait, no. You think telling me Jennifer lied about a pregnancy changes anything? It doesn't. She made terrible choices, yes. But you systematically targeted and exploited her. You documented your strategy for manipulating her in a notebook. You took her money, destroyed her trust, and used her vulnerabilities against her. Whatever lies she told, whatever mistakes she made, you're still the predator here. Trevor's face hardened. You're not as logical as you think you are. You've spent weeks building this narrative where you're the perfect victim and everyone else is at fault. But maybe Jennifer was right about you. Maybe you are emotionally unavailable. Maybe she lied about the pregnancy because it was the only way to get any reaction from you at all. I walked out without responding. In my truck, I sat gripping the steering wheel, trying to process what Trevor had said. The pregnancy had been fake. The whole thing, Jennifer's announcement, her cruelty on the phone, the claim about building a new life with Trevor's child, all of it fabricated to provoke a reaction from me. And I'd given her nothing, just calm acceptance, which had apparently been the worst thing I could have done. I pulled out my phone and called Catherine. How bad was it? She asked. Trevor told me Jennifer was never pregnant, that she made it up to manipulate me. Silence. Then, is he credible? I don't know. Maybe. It would explain some things. David, whatever Trevor told you, remember he's facing criminal fraud charges. He has every reason to try to damage Jennifer's credibility, make her look like an equal participant in wrongdoing. Don't let him manipulate you now the way he manipulated her then. What if he's telling the truth? Then Jennifer lied about being pregnant, which is awful, but it doesn't change the fundamentals of your case. You still got a fair settlement. Trevor still committed fraud. The outcome is the same. I drove home through afternoon traffic, my mind spinning. Jennifer had lied about the pregnancy. She tried to manipulate me into an emotional response, which meant our entire divorce had been built on her attempt to provoke me into caring enough to fight, and I'd refused to give her that satisfaction. At home, I pulled up my phone and stared at Jennifer's blocked number. I could unblock it, call her, demand to know if Trevor was telling the truth. But what would that accomplish? The divorce was final. The settlement was signed. We were done. Except I wasn't done. Not really. Because now I had this new piece of information rattling around in my head, changing the shape of everything I thought I understood. I poured a whiskey and sat in the dark living room, thinking about sequences again. Jennifer calls me in Dubai with her pregnancy announcement. I respond calmly. She panics, tries to get me to come home early. When that fails, she changes strategy, brings Trevor to the airport, tries to confront me publicly. Every move she'd made had been designed to provoke a reaction, to make me angry, hurt, desperate, anything but calm, and I'd denied her that reaction at every turn. Maybe that had been its own kind of cruelty. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. This is Jennifer. Trevor told me he talked to you. Whatever he said, it's not the whole truth. Can we meet? Please. I need to explain. I stared at the message. Every instinct told me to delete it, block the new number, maintain the distance Catherine had insisted on. Instead, I typed back, when and where. We met 2 days later at a park in Scarsdale, neutral territory where neither of us had memories. Jennifer arrived first, sitting on a bench near the playground. She wore jeans and a sweater, no makeup, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She looked younger somehow, more vulnerable than the polished professional I'd married. I sat down on the opposite end of the bench, maintaining distance. Thanks for coming, she said quietly. Trevor said you were never pregnant. She closed her eyes. He told you. Is it true? Yes. Her voice was barely audible. I was never pregnant. I made it up. The confirmation hit harder than I'd expected, even though I'd spent 2 days preparing for it. Why? Because I wanted you to feel something, anything. She turned to look at me, eyes red. You were always so calm, so controlled. Even when I told you I was leaving, you just said, okay. Like I was telling you we were out of milk or something. I needed to know if you still cared. So you lied about being pregnant with another man's child. I know how it sounds. I know it was wrong. She wrapped her arms around herself. But David, you have to understand what it was like. You were gone all the time. When you were home, you were distracted. I felt invisible in my own marriage. And then Trevor showed up and he saw me. He listened to me. He made me feel like I mattered. He was using you. I know that now. But at the time, it felt real. And when I told you about him, about leaving, you didn't even fight for me. You just accepted it. That hurt worse than anything. I thought about that, about how my calm response had been interpreted as indifference. What did you expect me to do? I don't know. Yell. Beg me to stay. Show up at my door demanding we work it out. Something that proved you still loved me. She laughed bitterly. Instead, you investigated Trevor, built a legal case, systematically dismantled my life. That wasn't what I wanted either. What did you want? I wanted you to care enough to be messy about it, to be human instead of logical, to show me that losing me actually hurt you. We sat in silence, watching kids play on the swings. Normal families, normal problems, normal lives. I did care, I said finally. I was hurt, betrayed, angry, all of it. Then why didn't you show it? Because that's not who I am. I process things internally. I don't explode or make scenes. That doesn't mean I don't feel things. Jennifer wiped her eyes. I know that now, but by the time I figured it out, it was too late. You'd already built your case, exposed Trevor, turned my whole world upside down. You moved $87,000 of our money to your boyfriend's account. You tried to convince me you'd sold our house. You lied about being pregnant. What was I supposed to do? I don't know, but not this. Not the systematic destruction of everything. She turned to face me fully. Do you know what it was like sitting in that deposition? Listening to Trevor's ex-wife describe how he manipulated her, reading his notebook, realizing I was just another mark in his pattern. I felt so stupid, so used. You were used. He's a con artist. I know, but I also made choices. I ignored warning signs because I wanted to believe someone saw me the way he pretended to. And when I realized you weren't going to react the way I wanted, I kept making worse choices. The fake pregnancy, the airport confrontation, all of it. I kept escalating, hoping you'd finally break. I didn't break. No, you didn't. You just quietly built a case that ensured I'd lose everything that mattered to me. I thought about that, about the weeks I'd spent gathering evidence, planning strategies, executing a careful campaign to protect my assets and expose Jennifer's misconduct. Had I been protecting myself, or had I been punishing her? The house, Jennifer said. The one thing I wanted. The place I thought we'd build our life together. You made sure I couldn't have it. It was my house, too. I know. But you didn't want it because you loved it. You wanted it because I did. You wanted to take something that mattered to me. She was right, and we both knew it. I'd fought for the house not because I particularly wanted to live there, but because Jennifer had tried to take it from me. It had become symbolic of the larger battle. What do you want from me, Jennifer? Why did you ask me to meet? She pulled an envelope from her purse. Trevor's attorney is pushing for a settlement in the civil suit. They want me and Rebecca to accept $25,000 each and drop the fraud charges. Rebecca's ready to take it. She just wants to be done. But I can't decide. Why are you telling me this? Because you're the only person who'll be honest with me about what I should do. Everyone else, my parents, my friends, even my therapist, they all tell me what they think I want to hear. But you'll tell me the truth. I considered the question. $25,000 was a fraction of what Jennifer had given Trevor. It wouldn't make her whole, but pursuing the case would mean months more of depositions, legal fees, emotional stress. Take the settlement, I said. She looked surprised. Really? Trevor's broke. Even if you win a judgment, you'll never collect the full amount. The settlement gives you something concrete. And more importantly, it gives you closure. Take it and move on. That's it? No lecture about how I deserve to suffer? No satisfaction in watching me get screwed by the legal system? I'm tired, Jennifer. Tired of fighting, tired of being angry, tired of the whole thing. We're divorced. The settlement's done. Trevor's facing consequences for his fraud. What else is there? She was quiet for a long moment. I wish I could go back. To before Trevor, before the lies, before everything fell apart. Would you have fought for me if I'd just talked to you? If I'd said I was unhappy and we needed to fix things? I don't know. Maybe. But we can't go back, so it doesn't matter. It matters to me. I stood up. Take the settlement, Jennifer. Move on with your life. Find someone who makes you happy. Someone who actually sees you, not just someone pretending to see you so they can use you. What about you? What are you going to do? I thought about the empty house. The life I needed to rebuild, the future that stretched out uncertain and undefined. I'm going to figure out how to be something other than your ex-husband. That's all I've been for months. The guy in the divorce, the one building the case. I need to remember who I was before that. Jennifer stood too. For a moment, I thought she might try to hug me, but she just nodded. For what it's worth, I am sorry. For all of it. You deserved better than what I did to you. You deserved better than Trevor. We both deserved better than what we became to each other. I walked back to my truck, leaving Jennifer on the park bench. In my rearview mirror, I watched her sit back down, shoulders shaking with sobs. Part of me wanted to go back, comfort her, tell her it would be okay. But that wasn't my job anymore. She wasn't my responsibility. We were just two people who'd hurt each other and were now trying to figure out how to move forward separately. At home, I called Catherine. I met with Jennifer, I said. David, I specifically advised you not to. I know, but I needed to hear it from her. About the pregnancy, about everything. Catherine sighed. And she confirmed Trevor was telling the truth. She lied about being pregnant to get a reaction from me. How do you feel about that? Honestly, I don't know. Angry, sad, relieved that I don't have to think about her raising a child with Trevor. It's complicated. That's normal. Divorce is always complicated, especially when there's been betrayal on both sides. Both sides. David, you spent weeks systematically dismantling your wife's life. Yes, she made terrible choices first, but your response was calculated to cause maximum damage. Neither of you comes out of this looking great. I thought about that, about the notebook I'd used as a weapon, the evidence I'd gathered, the way I'd cornered Jennifer in the deposition until she broke. Catherine was right. I justified it as protection, as justice, but it had been revenge. So what do I do now? I asked. Now? You let it go. You stop thinking about Jennifer, stop caring about Trevor, stop reliving everything that happened, you move forward. Just like that? Just like that. I know it sounds simplistic, but that's really all there is to it. Let go and move forward. After we hung up, I sat in the quiet house and tried to figure out how to do that. How to let go of months of anger, weeks of planning, the satisfaction of winning. How to stop being the person the divorce had turned me into. I opened my laptop and started writing. Not a legal document or an evidence file or a strategic plan, just thoughts, feelings, the messy emotional reality I'd been avoiding. I married Jennifer because I loved her. She married me for the same reason. Somewhere along the way, we stopped seeing each other. I got lost in work and travel. She got lost in feeling invisible. We both made choices that hurt the other person. And now we're divorced, and neither of us is happy about it. Trevor was a catalyst, not a cause. If it hadn't been him, it would have been something else eventually. Our marriage was already failing. He just accelerated the timeline. I spent weeks gathering evidence, building a case, planning revenge. But revenge doesn't actually fix anything. It just creates different pain. I need to let this go. All of it. The anger, the hurt, the need to keep score. I need to remember how to be David Foster again, not just Jennifer's ex-husband or the guy who won the divorce. I saved the document, then deleted it. The words had served their purpose, getting the thoughts out of my head. I didn't need to keep them. Tomorrow I'd start figuring out what came next. Tonight, I'd just sit in the quiet house and let myself feel the full weight of everything that had happened. and maybe, just maybe, start to let it go. 3 months later, I stood in the driveway of my house, the house, not our house, watching movers load furniture into a truck. I'd decided to sell it, start fresh somewhere without the weight of everything that had happened here. The real estate agent had found a buyer within 2 weeks, a young couple with their first child looking for good schools and a safe neighborhood, the kind of family Jennifer and I had once talked about becoming. Drew Bennett pulled up as the movers were finishing. He got out carrying 2 coffees from the diner downtown. "Thought you might need this," he said, handing me one. "Thanks." We stood together, watching the movers work. The house looked different already. Empty rooms visible through the windows, stripped of personality and memory. "How do you feel?" Drew asked. "Like I'm closing a chapter. Maybe starting a new one, though I'm not sure what it looks like yet." "That's healthy. A lot of people get stuck in the past after divorce. You're actually moving forward." I took a sip of coffee. "I heard Jennifer took the settlement from Trevor. $25,000. She did. Smart choice, actually. Trevor's criminal case is moving forward. The DA filed fraud charges last week. He's looking at 18 months to 3 years if convicted." "And Jennifer?" "She moved to Connecticut permanently. Got a new job with a consulting firm based in Stamford. Starting over, like you are." I thought about Jennifer in Connecticut, building a new life without Trevor, without me, without the house we'd shared. I hoped she found what she was looking for. The last of the furniture went into the truck. The moving foreman came over with paperwork for me to sign. "Everything's loaded, Mr. Foster. We'll have it delivered to your new place in Rye tomorrow morning." I'd bought a smaller house, a modern place overlooking the Sound. 2 bedrooms, open floor plan, floor-to-ceiling windows, a fresh start in a space with no history. After the movers left, Drew and I walked through the empty house one last time. Our footsteps echoed on the hardwood floors. Every room looked bigger without furniture, but also somehow lonelier. In the kitchen, I stood where I'd received Jennifer's call from Dubai. The moment everything changed. Or maybe the moment that revealed everything had already changed. "You know what I learned from all this?" I said. "What's that?" Being right doesn't actually matter as much as I thought it did. I was right about Jennifer moving the money without permission, right about Trevor being a con artist, right about everything, legally speaking. But being right didn't make me feel better. It just made me tired. Drew leaned against the counter. "That's wisdom, my friend. Most people never get there. They spend their whole lives needing to be right, needing to win, needing vindication. You figured out it's all empty calories." We locked up the house and walked out to the driveway. The couple buying it was scheduled to close in 2 weeks. By then, I'd be fully moved into the new place, starting whatever came next. "You want to grab dinner?" Drew asked. "Celebrate the new chapter?" "Actually, I have plans. First date in 15 years. Drew's eyebrows went up. "Really? Who's the lucky person?" "A woman I met at a coffee shop last week. Her name's Rachel. She's a landscape architect, divorced about a year ago, no kids. We've been texting, decided to try dinner." "Good for you. Nervous?" "Terrified, but also excited, which I wasn't expecting to feel again." "That's how you know you're ready." Drew clapped me on the shoulder. "Have a great time. And David, don't bring up the divorce. Not on the first date." I laughed. Noted. That evening, I met Rachel at an Italian restaurant in Rye. She was early, already seated at a table by the window. She looked up when I approached, smiled, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Possibility. "David," she said. "That's me." "Rachel?" "The very same. Sit, please. I ordered wine. I hope that's okay." We settled into conversation easily. She told me about her work designing public parks and private gardens. I told her about logistics management, leaving out the part about spending months overseas. We talked about books, travel, the ridiculousness of first dates after divorce. "So," she said over dessert, "how long have you been divorced?" "About 4 months. Recent. How are you handling it?" I thought about how to answer honestly without unloading my entire emotional journey on a first date. "I'm handling it. Some days are better than others, but I'm moving forward, which feels like progress." "I get that. My divorce was finalized a year ago, and I'm just now starting to feel like myself again. It takes time." "What happened, if you don't mind me asking?" Rachel shrugged. "We got married young, grew in different directions, realized we wanted different things. No drama, no betrayal, just 2 people who stopped being right for each other. We're still friendly, actually. Had coffee last week to finalize some paperwork about the house we sold." I felt a stab of something. Not quite envy, but something close. A clean divorce, an amicable split. Remaining friendly afterward. Everything mine hadn't been. "That sounds healthy." I said. It is. Though I'll admit, I spent months being angry at him for not being who I wanted him to be. Eventually, I realized that wasn't fair. He was always exactly who he was. I just wanted him to be someone different. The conversation shifted to lighter topics: favorite restaurants, places we wanted to travel, the challenges of dating apps. By the time we finished dinner, 2 hours had passed without me checking my phone once. This was nice, Rachel said as we walked to our cars. Would you like to do it again sometime? I would, very much. She smiled. Good. Text me when you get home safe. We'll figure out round 2. I drove home, to the hotel where I was staying until my new house was ready, feeling lighter than I had in months. The dinner had been easy, comfortable, fun, no ulterior motives, no manipulation, just 2 people getting to know each other. My phone buzzed as I was getting ready for bed. Text from Rachel. Had a great time tonight. Looking forward to next time. Sleep well? I texted back. Same here. Thanks for a great evening. Then, on impulse, I pulled out my laptop and opened my notes. The file I'd been keeping all through the divorce. Phases, plans, strategies. I scrolled through it one last time, reading my own words from months ago. Phase 1, documentation. Phase 2, legal foundation. Phase 3, social consequences. Phase 4, final resolution. All of it had happened. I'd executed the plan perfectly, protected my assets, exposed Trevor's fraud, secured a favorable settlement. I'd won by every measurable standard. And yet, sitting in a hotel room after a promising first date, none of it felt as important as it had when I was planning it. I deleted the file, emptied the trash, cleared my browser history of all the research I'd done, all the evidence I'd gathered, let it all go. Then I opened a new document and wrote, goals for the next year. Settle into new house, reconnect with old friends, travel somewhere I've never been, learn something new, be open to whatever comes next. Simple, forward-looking.